Right, we'll open this meeting at 4:31. All right, and first of all, I'll ask Councillor Hewson if he would make the acknowledgement of country.
First acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we meet on today. I humbly pay my respects to the people of the Wiradjuri and Ngunnawal nations, their past, present and emerging elders. Thank you.
Thank you. Bit of housekeeping. If you're asked to evacuate, the emergency procedure is to exit via the door leading out of the building directly outside the council chambers and proceed to the footpath opposite the council chambers and await further instructions. Live streaming, recording and publishing of council meetings. This council meeting is being streamed live, recorded and published in accordance with council's live streaming in council meetings policy. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image and comments will form part of the live stream and recording. The chair and or the general manager have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behaviour and or comments. No one in the public forum? I'll go on to the statement of... Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Filmer is in the public gallery. No public forum.
No public forum. I'll go on to the statement of ethical obligations. Councillors are reminded that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of Hilltops local government area and the Hilltops Council, and that they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment as per their oath or affirmation of office made under Section 233A of the Local Government Act 1993. Apologies and applications for leave. We do have one request for leave of absence by Mary Dodd. The recommendation is there. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald, and a seconder, Councillor Foreman. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. And also we do have attendance by digital means, and that is for Councillor Stadmiller. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Mackie, a seconder. Councillor Piper. Those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. All right. I'll ask people to be upstanding for the expressions of sympathy. A minute's silence to express our sympathy on the passing of Craig Foster, or Foss, Harry Mackie, Ahmed Ajaji, Diane Bishalia, Ruth Short, Ross Henman, Maureen Perkins, Nancy Woolmer, Judith Brennan, Barbara Smythe, Brian March, Philip Ison, Emily Pettit, Gerald Bailey, Brian Page, Doreen Jasperson, Sydney Hall, Lola Ross, John Haywood, and Nellie Shaw. Thank you, councillors. Right, we'll move on to confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Foreman. And a seconder? Councillor Pearson.
Madam Mayor,
yes, Councillor Armstrong.
I'm just noticing, I'm just scrolling through them now. I noticed that at the request to have a break at the last meeting, it was on page number 16. The minutes record that council takes a short at 7:06 p.m. There seems to be a break in the word break. I don't want to be pedantic, but it just doesn't make much sense otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Sure, it will be corrected in the minutes. Any other comments? All right. What are we up to? Yep. Yes. Those in favour? We have a mover and a seconder, so those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Yep. We're up to any disclosures of interest. Yes, Councillor Ball.
I have a non-pecuniary interest in item 11.
Thank you very much. Any others?
Excuse me, Councillor, are you going to stay in the chamber for the debate and vote? Are you going to not stay in the chamber and not vote?
I'm going to stay in the chamber and not vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. There isn't a mayoral minute. The next one, the mayoral report. It's in front of you. I'd just like to comment and thank everybody on Anzac Day who took part in that. It was a long day for a number of you, and I thank you. I think right across Hilltops, the day was well received and treated with dignity on the commemoration of Anzac. Do I have a mover for the mayoral report? Thank you. Councillor Armstrong, a seconder. Councillor Mackie. Okay, those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Next, we have councillor reports. We'll go, I think, on the paper as it is, and then we'll call for anybody who isn't there. So, Councillor Armstrong.
Anything to add is an inspection of the work on Wine Ridge Soldier Settlement Road with a resident of the area that was undertaken last week.
Thank you. Councillor Mary Dodd isn't here, but before she went, or on leave, her meetings are there. Councillor Foreman.
I attended on the 20th April, I met with the manager of Destination and Economic, and also on the 20th April, I attended the GPA meeting. I did not, however, attend the Anzac Day services at Hennessy Catholic College today, but I did go to the YLAD site visit.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Foreman. Councillor Mackie. Well, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And Councillor Piper.
as printed, except today I went to an Anzac Day ceremony at WIRRIMAH Central School, which was unbelievably good.
Thank you. Now I'll go on to people who aren't there. Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Meetings is minuted, and I also sat in on Sunday night, on a Zoom meeting with the merged Forced Council Amalgamations Alliance, and some interesting conversations and happening between councils much like ourselves. Thank you.
And Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Meetings as minuted. Anzac service at Gaylong Progress Association meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Hewson. And Councillor Sadmiller.
Madam Mayor, Anzac Day services and sponsorship meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We have had...
Madam Mayor, I think you've forgotten the council.
Oh, how could I? How could I? Councillor Fitzgerald.
Okay, the minutes I attended the workshop on the 29th of March. On the 1st of April, I attended the Harden District Education Foundation dinner. On the 4th of April, the Wombat Progress Association. On the 12th of April, I attended a briefing via Zoom with staff. On the 21st of April, I inspected some road maintenance work at MOVEABLE. On the 25th of April, I attended 3 Anzac services, and this morning went to the WILAD site visit.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. And you've had a busy time as well. All right. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Pullman. And a seconder? Councillor Hewson. Thank you. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Number 11, Community Recognition Scheme. Do we have anybody for a Community Recognition Scheme?
Yes,
Councillor
Madam.
Flannery?
Go on.
Oh, pardon me.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Councillor
Once again, Hilltops has a national champion. This is a young fellow who happens to live in MURRUMBURRAH. He left last year from home and went to Kinross boarding school, where he had never ever seen in his life a rowing boat. And he is the oldest, it's the under 17 Australian title holders. In the semi-finals, let's all go back to when he had to get there, in the state championships held at the Olympic Park in Sydney, they beat St Joseph's by over 10 seconds. That qualified them to go to the national titles in Perth, where they again beat St Joseph's in the preliminary by 2.55 seconds. And then in the final, they beat Hunter Valley Grammar by 4.18 seconds. And this boy is the oldest. He's 16 and 3 months. And the crew, it was for the Cox 4. 2 of them come from Orange, 1 from Cargo, and 1 from Galagabone. So all good country boys. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Maybe they'll be our next awesome foursome in a few years. Now, oh, by the way, his name was Harry Dimmick.
I was about to say, Harry Dimmick. Okay. Councillor Flannery,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 2 recognitions. Firstly, on the 12th of April, one of our staff retired, Kevin Hill, who's been with Harden Shire for, I don't know the exact number of years, but 30-odd years, I believe. Whilst he should be also, I would have thought, getting a employment recognition from Hilltops Council. By far and away, Kevin's community work made him an outstanding person. I think there wouldn't be anyone who the community relied on more than Kevin Hill. If ever there was a problem, I would say most residents would ring Kevin before they rang a councillor.
And on most occasions, he did the work himself because he knew it was going to get done if he did it himself. He was always there to fix problems after hours, or he made sure they were fixed. The likes of him don't come along very frequently. Sadly, I think Disenchantment saw the retirement come earlier than it should have. But council and the community owe him a huge debt of gratitude for his work. So I think we, on behalf of the community, should write to him and thank him, not for what he did for council, but what he did for the community. Secondly, the Hardin District Education Foundation had their 21st anniversary celebration on the 1st of April, and there are a number of councillors who attended. I'd like to recognise them in particular because I've always believed in the saying that God helps those that help themselves, and I don't believe there'd be an organisation that would fit that bill more so than the Hardin District Education Foundation. The Country Education Foundation is the umbrella body that was formed by Nick and Julia Burton-Taylor when Nick was a director on Grain Corp. And as part of that directorship, he recognised the needs of rural students who struggled to go on into secondary education, and there are a number of directors that supported him in that. So Grain Corp and Nick saw it to basically founded the Country Education Foundation, and they encourage local towns and those who were of means to set up education foundations to support kids for tertiary education, be it university bachelorate degrees, or be it through simply getting a trade of one type or another. Hardin District Education Foundation in their 21 years have raised in excess of $1.5 million. And that is a phenomenal amount of money. They've supported over 2,000 students from the Hardin community. There's a core group that work and raise funds year in, year out. And for want of prejudice, a better way of putting it, my wife is one of the key members, along with Charlotte Middleton and Glenn Howe, that have been on the committee since it was established. There are many others, and I won't try and go through them all because I'll omit them. But Charlotte, as the chairman, has done an amazing job. The celebration wasn't to raise money; it was just to recognise the efforts of the committee and what they have done. And it was a wonderful night. Hopefully they will encourage other communities to go and raise money and to support local students. And some of the achievements of some of those students is quite remarkable. There is at least 3 doctors that I know. 3 students that have gone on to become doctors. And that's an amazing achievement. But even those who get apprenticeships of plumbing, whatever it is, electrical work, they are all very important contributors to our local community and help to grow our local community. And those who have come back after 21 years, some of them are now in their 30s, and they come back and are contributing to the community. So I think we should write to that community, that committee, and congratulate them.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Anybody else? Okay. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Seconder. Councillor Mackie, aye. Have a look. That okay? All right. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, we go to a new item, actually, and that's the executive meetings attended. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Mover? Councillor Piper?
I just have one addition, or 2 additions, through you, Madam Mayor, to mine. I attended the Anzac Day dawn service at Rugby. The young service, not in the capacity as general manager, but watching my boys march with the Monteagle School. And then I also was the MC at the Monteagle service on the 25th on Anzac Day. And I also attended the WIRRIMAH site visit today, the 26th. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So we have a mover, Councillor Piper, and seconder, Councillor Fleming. Okay, they're all there. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. And thank you, Exec, for all the work that you're putting in. The next one, 12.2, the cash and investment report. Do I have a mover? Both ways. Happy to second? Okay. Councillor Fitzgerald and second, Councillor Armstrong. Any questions? Councillor Armstrong, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do note in this report that I quote, finance endeavours to extract and obtain the best rate of return from the available financial institutions with the required rating. There are limits imposed arising from the loan with T Corp. Now, from discussions with the CFO, I understand that our borrowings at T Corp have created some reduced opportunities for us. I'm just wondering if council can get a comprehensive report providing details of all borrowings by council, the interest rates, and the terms of the loans, if at all possible, also the outstanding balances at the end of the financial year. I don't propose that they should be anything other than based upon a financial year.
Through Madam Mayor to the CFO.
I don't think any councillor is aware of that. Are you, Madam Mayor?
I beg your pardon?
Are you, Madam Mayor, aware of the loan portfolio? And
it would be interesting.
The information,
I have.
The information that's been provided has been the loans as per the annual report, but not the detail that you think.
Financial statement.
So you,
yes.
CFO?
I just have
we can provide that, can't we?
Certainly provide that information in detail. I just have to check this. I haven't got it with me, what's in the annual financial statements, but certainly the loans will be listed on the balance sheet there, statement of financial position. That's probably on our revenue policy on the back page of our revenue policy, but I'll double check that for you, which has got the maturity date as well. Sorry? Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Right. Thank you. Any more comments, questions?
Yeah, another question, Norm. On this here, we've got money at St George Bank maturing on the 19th of this month. How long does it take us to get that money reinvested at a better rate on average, like 1 day, 2 days, 4 months? What?
Literally within, am I on? Yeah. So literally within the day. So before it comes up, like I had a chat with this, it's normally done by the financial accountant, but say with CBA when we were checking the tender, when that's up, normally we'd have it ready so it rolled straight over. We'd be contacting a couple of institutions to.
So if I asked you right now, St George Bank maturing on the 19th of April 2023, and our interest rate at that one was 2.8. What's the new rate? Could I ask you that then or not?
I should have made a note. I have to take that on notice, and I'll advise you. I'll advise council.
Thank you.
I will form part of the next report, Councillor, as procedure.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no more questions, comments, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Next one, we go to 12.3, outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors reports. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald, and a seconder? Councillor Ingram, I think. Thank you. Beg your pardon? Yes. All right. Any comments, queries, questions?
Madam Mayor, can we get a bit of an update on the the collections in regard to the actions that have been taken to date for those outstanding rate accounts. I do note that that some quick mathematics there is it's about $5 million still outstanding there, and there's a significant proportion that it appears as though has been outstanding for some significant time, those a year or more.
Coming through you, Madam Mayor? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Councillor Armstrong, you're right. There is, we're currently focusing right now again on those over 4 months, in particular in every category. We've got a balance of about $3.5 million across the range. And I've been in touch with outstanding collections, so we'll be doing a thorough follow-up. There had been a lag last year where there was some letters of demand issued and they weren't then pursued. But what I'll be doing with those, in accordance with our policy, is we'll then have them listed in court. So I'll then be raising a statement of claim. I'll also just mention, just for the benefit of councillors, that a number of ratepayers are falling foul of any of the payment arrangements that are put in place. So I'd encourage any of them to come and see you. In some cases, they might be embarrassed or not wanting to contact council. And obviously in these difficult times and people in debt situations. But by all means, I'll take it on board and have a chat with the individuals with three sections, the rate section, the water section and other debtors. Happy to have that discussion personally in relation to some ratepayers, but there has been a noticeable drop off with people making payment arrangements. And then in practice, normally they break a payment arrangement. We'd say the debt is now fully payable. We haven't been adhering to that. But I'm going to probably be looking to get more cash in. And so I'm sure that you're going to probably find some ratepayers coming to you, or people with leases, etc., who are actually falling behind with their payments. I'll just put you on notice about that because we've actually contacted the debt collection company. I'm about to do another review and send notices out. People are just then again, there are other individuals. I have people on the street will say to me, "Oh, well, I pay my rates, why isn't somebody else paying their rates?" And I appreciate that, but obviously some people get themselves into hardship situations, and we try and get them into an arrangement where the debt doesn't get the capital amount doesn't get any greater. So if they have 5,000, we'd like to see that they're paying the current amount so that debt doesn't increase. That's lapsing. So we're going to have to take more stringent action in terms of collecting the cash.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just for curiosity's sake, so with the cost of living, people would understand or be falling behind. Does council always contact them at a certain point that they're behind, or do you find that the ratepayer comes to us and says, "I'm behind and I would like a payment plan"? So
but certainly a number of ratepayers do that.
Yeah.
We need to be a bit more diligent in actually going out to ratepayers after a month and saying, have you got a problem? That's a challenge we've got right now, and I'm particularly focusing on the over three to 4 months area. There are that amount there is a level which we need to get down.
Yes, because if the further it gets on, the harder it is for the people to catch up if they are in hardship. So
that's correct. There's also some debts that are rising in the leases area as well, where people are falling behind with companies, etc., falling behind with some of those arrangements as well.
And you also find, if you don't follow them up, some people just won't pay. We had a report come to us, where there's debts of $60,000 from landholders who own half the district and just hadn't paid the rate because no one chased them up to pay them. So it is on council to chase. Okay. Feelings have nothing to do with bank balances.
Agree. And look, in the commercial world, if a rate gets to 30 or 60 days overdue, suddenly you've got a bit of an issue on your hands. Yeah, I'm well aware of that. We've got a fair bit of work to do in that area to actually issue the debt. I just put you on notice that you may then get ratepayers, and they can always come to me. Or go to ratepayer and come to me, and I'm quite happy to answer any of those queries.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I don't like to bring this up to you with you, Norm, without notice, but the recreation club in MURRUMBURRAH, I believe they owe us quite a bit of money in rates. Are they included in these figures outstanding?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll have to recall that this is in relation to an organisation that there's been no discussion upon it. It's not appropriate to discuss in the public forum until the matter has been discussed, and then, as appropriate, a report will be brought to council should it be necessary.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to thank General Manager. I was going to add that we're in the other debtor situation where we have clients obviously confidential before we start mentioning names and action that needs to be taken or the council wishes to take.
Through you, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
do we do a press release or anything around letting people know that they can approach if they are struggling financially?
Sorry, Councillor, I missed the first part of your question.
Would we do a press release or something like that, or how do we notify the ratepayers that they can actually come to us with a confidential plan if they need it to pay their rates?
We could arrange to have that information appended to the next lot of rate notices that go out.
Yeah.
Certainly, it's on the website.
Yes.
It's in the revenue policy. It is actually stated in a few areas.
I just think maybe just at the moment it would be nice if they knew they could approach and it was confidential.
Encouraging non-payment.
Question, Madam Mayor. Question to the CFO.
Councillor Arms.
Just following up that, Norm, the pre-amalgamation practice was to supply any ratepayers that hadn't paid their rates for rate instalment with a missed instalment notification. The data in regard to the hardship policy was included on that. Is Hilltops Council issuing missed instalment reminders?
They are, and often we'll actually, to pick up Councillor Foreman's point, we'll often contact ratepayers and highlight the fact that they've missed an instalment.
So do we do that for every missed instalment?
I'd have to take that on notice. I'm not convinced that we are doing.
Can we please get some advice in that regard? Because from my own personal experience, that is the best way of reminding people they owe money. It's also an excellent opportunity to advise them of the council's hardship policy at the start of the whole process.
Yeah. No, it's an area we're focusing on right now, actually.
Can we get something back next month? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. If there are no more questions, comments, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous, I think. Have we lost?
Through Madam Mayor, we're just checking to see whether we've lost Councillor Stadmiller digitally. This is online. He's fallen. Oh, we are. Councillor Stadmiller, do you have your camera? Your camera is off, so we can't see you. We'll have to take it that he's stepped away for the moment. So stepped away at 5:04. Sorry, Madam Mayor. Councillor Stadmiller, Councillor Stadmiller is back.
Councillor Stadmiller.
So, Councillor Stadmiller, we're just checking that you were still live.
Yeah, had to duck out, sorry.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Let's turn now to 12.4, development application stats. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Fitzgerald, seconder. Councillor Armstrong. Any questions?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
DA 2020-0005. It's on page 36. I'm assuming that all environmental studies have been done, e.g. is there any waterways or anything on this property that maybe wastewater and effluent can feed down into?
I'll hand it over to the Director of Planning.
Questions about me?
Yes, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. Just question in regard to specifically DA 20210053. I note that it has been refused. I'm just wondering whether we can get the details of the refusal, given that it's been in the stop the clock mode for just over 2 years. I presume the external referral for about 2 years also has something to do with that refusal.
So what page are you
on? That will be on page number 37 at the top.
The first item, Director, DA 2021-0053. It's correct, Councillor Armstrong?
Yes, the one that's refused.
Yes.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that refused because the police did not support it, so it was external referral and based on the feedback.
Excellent. Thank you. So I do also note that towards the end of that report, there is one that is rejected. I'm just wondering what's the difference between refusal and rejection? We've probably all experienced rejection at some stage, and it's probably not very nice. But I'm just, if I can just get some clarification on the difference between the two.
So typically, an application is rejected when we have not received sufficient information for it to be assessment ready, and therefore is rejected. And that typically happens in the first 10 days. We have that opportunity to review it. Then once we accept it and payment is made, the assessment period starts. Sometimes an application is rejected for non-payment of the application.
So if an application is rejected, it needs to be relodged through the portal. Is that correct? Okay, thank you. And the last one, I note that there are approximately 70 allotments or subdivisions, including strata units, listed in there for young, but not one of them is approved. A large number of them are awaiting further information, a smattering under assessment. But when I look at the stop the clock days, the majority are in either high double figures or triple digits. Can you please advise what's going wrong there that we just can't get these things through?
So through you, Madam Mayor, in the briefing that we had a couple of weeks ago,
But are there processes in place to work on that problem?
So, the Director of Infrastructure is responsible for that, and he took their briefing.
Can I ask, when does the Director envisage that there will be a significant improvement in, because it only seems to be at young, I'll be quite truthful. Will we see a significant improvement just with the external resource allocation, or are we going to be saddled with this ongoing?
So, through you, Madam Mayor, I think there's two elements to the development application and assessment process. There's the initial planning assessment, and I outline that, in fact, the days that we're taking as staff to do the assessment of those development applications has improved in the last year, but noted that the overall time it's taking to get through the entire process has extended. And remembering that the DA is only one part of it, and certainly a lot of the subdivision activity is happening in young, and that's why you've got that slowdown in that area because of the development engineering challenges.
I thank the Director for that. I do draw his attention in particular to DA 2021-0085 on page 37, which has been subject to 722 stop the clock days, 0 external referrals, and 1 day's processing for a 2-lot subdivision. I guess I'm just wondering if you can provide us with some details of what would be stopping it for 722 days. If it's further information requested after 722 days, if it hasn't been supplied in 1 day's processing by staff, it would almost be a refusal, would it not?
Through you, Madam Mayor, that one's definitely a bit of an outlier. I don't have the information on hand as to why that is specifically being on the clock for that long. Typically, by this period, we would send up to 3 reminder notices to the applicant to say we require the further information, give them the additional 28 days, and usually on the third, and after the third one, it's then refused.
So up to 722 stop the clock days, when would council issue a refusal notice?
And through you, Madam Mayor, well, technically we're in the deemed refusal space. So, if the applicant could choose to progress the matter and take it to the Land and Environment Court for a determination, typically we would close it. We haven't done that one. I'll take it on notice in terms of getting back as to the reason why we haven't.
Thank you, KRUGER.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So just to
Councillor.
comment more than anything else on that, like some councillors who weren't present at a workshop last week, we had a unannounced pep talk and appraisal talk from the planning department and painted a very rosy picture of how things were going. I'm just taking from a couple of points that Councillor Armstrong just mentioned, saying that it's improving and actually having the documentation to back it up seems to be not sort of meshing together so well at the moment. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of development in Young and a lot more would like to happen, but let's just say they're eagerly awaiting the positive improvement that you announced to councils at a workshop last week when I speak to them. So we'll see how we go.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I would also just like to comment. So, just for curiosity's sake, do the 2 departments, infrastructure and planning, get together and go through this then, going to Greg's comment of, 722 days and being unsure what the reason behind that stoppage is? Do you actually sit down and go through them and have a look at this list and consult each other on where you're all at and how to move forward?
Yes, so through you, Madam Mayor. So what happens is that every Tuesday, generally, we have a group meeting of everyone that's involved in the assessment process from both planning and engineering, and we go through the applications that have come in. We identify who's going to take the lead and what kind of supporting information, whether we're going to accept the application and the like. So that's a joint responsibility. In addition to that, when matters need further escalation, I have a regular meeting with the Director of Infrastructure where we work through, the ones that are still outstanding and what we need to do to get them across the line.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Question, Madam.
Councillor Flannery.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Item DA 2022-01-00.1. What did council approve? That came before council a number of months ago. What was the approvals that we gave on that? Because I'm a bit lost. Perhaps I didn't read the report that came to council properly, but I thought that was all approved. And also,
sorry, Councillor Flannery, can you point me to the page number, because there's lots of
first item on page 40, the first DA, and also we'll start on page 38, if you like, DA 2022/0197 48 Smith Street, Harden, clock stop 219 days. Could we be advised of what the issues are in relation to it, and then where the boiler development is up to and what council did approve there?
Right. So, through you, Madam Mayor, starting with the Long Street Burra, we are working with the developer in terms of doing a modification to that DA for the staging plan. We're actively engaged with the applicant. It's sitting with the applicant at the moment to come back with that modification. On the Smith Street Harden subdivision, where we're at with that is that our consultant development engineer did a assessment of the application and identified a series of matters to be addressed in terms of the infrastructure provision, particularly to do with stormwater and the proposed roading layout. The concerns with the stormwater are also reflected in the submissions that when the application went on exhibition. We had meetings with the applicant back in March and a follow-up one in early April. And even as recently as on Monday, we've been in contact because it's back with them. They are preparing a revised servicing plan for the application, and we expect to hear that back from them soon. And sorry, Councillor, apparently I didn't get your other one, if there was one.
There's the Long Street Borer. So it says here that further information required that hasn't been approved, and then you just said a second ago that there's a DA modification being sought. So has it been the original DA was approved, was it not?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So the original DA was approved. You approved it a few months ago. This is to do with the modification and that's related particularly to the staging.
It's showing as further information required. So it's not the DA is approved. It's the modification.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. And the Smith Street Harden, because I've had a number of complaints about this from both the applicant and a number of Harden residents, because as we know, housing is very short. In fact, I don't think there's one single available block in Harden. I'm not too sure what the status of Young is, but or Burrua, but Burrua has 128. But there, I constantly am being advised that the applicant is struggling with council responses. So I think the ball's now in the applicant's court.
It's currently in the applicant's court.
Thank you.
There were some strongly worded emails I received actually on the same matter, Councillor Flannery. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Thank you, Director.
Just on that, in regard to that, I also received strongly worded email as well in that regard. I'm just wondering, is there any way that council can assist the proponent in moving forward with the provision of this information?
Through you, Madam Mayor, in terms of the work we do to support, any application, we've got the development, the key issue is around development engineering and doing the assessment of the servicing plan, particularly for stormwater and the roading layout. The consultant has provided comprehensive feedback to the applicant, including marked up annotation on their plan. So I think we've given them all the information that they need to progress the application.
So you're saying that the trunk infrastructure and all that has been explained and they know where everything is, because that's in contradiction of the emails I've been receiving. The information that was passed to me was that we weren't too sure what infrastructure we had as a council there.
Through you, Madam Mayor, as I understand it, they've been provided a comprehensive report on, and how they need to address the servicing of the subdivision.
Right, thank you, Director.
It says that we've locked our hands.
Thank you. The concern, through you, Madam Mayor, the concern was, or that issue, one of the key issues was that, as I'm advised, that, and there's two sides to it all, the council wasn't aware of where all their assets were, and the applicant was being asked to provide a detailed plan of stormwater, but council was not aware of where the stormwater actually was and what assets were where, and that the applicant was being left to find out that detail, which they didn't see as their issue.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Belene's responsible for development engineering support, so she may have a comment on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm assuming we're referring to the Smith Street development. On that development, we do require, and there's a difference between the development application and a subdivision work certificate. The request was for a subdivision work certificate, and as part of that subdivision work certificate, the requirements are that there are survey points that need to be provided as part of the management of the stormwater on that site. As the Director of Planning has already indicated, there are some concerns around how stormwater would be managed on that site, and we needed to understand that. We also needed some survey points, and the comment that we don't know where our assets are, well, that's a different comment to, we said that they should not rely on information other than they go and survey it because they need to survey it anyway. We require those survey points when the stormwater solution and the detailed design is provided. At subdivision work certificate level, we need detailed design. We need RL levels. We need the invert levels of where this is going to drain to. And that is part of the whole process of doing a detailed design. You cannot do a detailed design without doing the survey first. So it is a requirement when you submit your designs to submit survey points across that design to see how it ties into existing infrastructure. There is existing stormwater infrastructure in one of those streets. We need to ensure that it ties into that.
Thank you. Do we have survey points on record?
I'm not aware of those, what the survey points are. The physical infrastructure is there, so you can then do the survey point because you need to do it anyway, as you need to detail it on the detailed design engineering drawings.
Well, I would hope the infrastructure's there because it's very difficult to put stormwater into a drain. It's not there. But you're not aware whether we do or don't have the survey point.
If there is a survey point, I would still recommend to the designer that they confirm those points because those are the points that they will base their design on.
Well, as I understand it, that's the issue, that they haven't been given any assistance from council on what survey points they need to confirm, and they've been left to go and find their own survey points.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the meetings that we've had with the proponent and the applicant, actually, we've identified what the requirements are. If those are unclear, I'm more than happy to go back and ensure that we have given them enough information. That has not been raised with me, that information is outstanding.
Thank you.
Well, I think it goes to the issue of why we're not getting DAs through, that applicants are generally not being provided with information that they should that they would reasonably believe council has, that would make the processing more speedy. And so the constant complaint I get is that an applicant puts a subdivision, whatever it is, dwelling in, and rather than getting a list and this is what's required, that information's lodged, and then, you need to come back with this, you need to come back with that. And that is a constant complaint that I'm getting.
Thank you. I know that you are working to make it clear for everybody on all the work that we're doing. All right, let's put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. All right, we'll move on to 12.5, which is DA 2022-0255, movable dwelling at 21 Millers Road, Wirrima. Do I so move? Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Seconder? Thank you. Councillor Ingram?
Madam Mayor, the LEP may not be entirely satisfied with this, but I'm reminded that these are soldier settlement blocks, and from my own personal experience, they range in size from an acre or so up to 150 acres. For that reason, I don't believe that this particular development is out of character with the developments around it. I do, however, note provisions of the LEP.
Thank you for that comment, Councillor Armstrong. Anybody else? If not, I'll put it to vote. Those in
I'd just
favour?
like to talk in favour of it and say I think it's one of common sense, and thank the staff for putting it forward.
Thank you. Councillor Flannery, I'll put to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. The next one is a BA 2023-0003 dwelling house and boundary adjustment at 20 Rifle Range Road, Young. Okay, thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Foreman.
Madam Mayor, thank you.
Councillor Armstrong.
I do note that the application has identified, or the report, sorry, has identified that the dwelling is to be built in a flood-prone area. I'm just wondering if the director can provide some further and better details in regards to the measures that are necessary to ensure that the house doesn't become inundated, given the huge amount of climate change that we face in recent years.
Thank you, Councillor. Director.
Yep, through you, Madam Mayor. If you go to page 135, the second heading, flood planning, you'll see they're proposing to build outside higher than the AHD level for the area.
Thank you. So compliance is there. That's what you're saying. Any other?
I just want to ask quickly, is there a difference between floodplain and flood risk?
I'm going to take that one on notice, Councillor Mackie. Yeah.
All right. If Councillor Stadmiller.
Just a quick question regarding the current placement of the dwelling. Pardon me. I think it states at the start that it currently doesn't have approval. Is it a SLEDS style design, or is it currently on footings and they're just seeking to have the approval process occur after the fact? I am in full support of as much housing as possible anywhere possible at the moment, however.
So to you, Madam Mayor, this application is part of a regularising situation, but also the planning to ensure that they comply by moving.
All right. Thank you. If there are no more questions, yes, Councillor.
I do note, I take on board the director's comments in regards to flooding, and the use of the existing data to develop the high water data. I do note on page 140 that there is a paragraph titled hazards. There are no known risks to people, property, or the biophysical environment from the geologic or soil instability of bushfire. The site is subject to flooding, and in the development has been designed to mitigate the flood risk with minimum floor levels and emergency flood access. Once again, I just want to make sure that my concern here is for the proponent. I would hate to see someone spend $500,000 building a house and have it go underwater every time Burrangong Creek gets a gully buster through it. Can we please be advised as to what sort of emergency flood access is suitable given the development of a residential dwelling?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not able to give you that answer tonight. I think this highlights to me that when you're considering DAs, it would be helpful to have an officer that's a bit more closer to some of the detail to help you with your decision support on this. So.
Madam Mayor, with respect,
yes,
that's a decision that the director can make. But council, I note in the code of meeting practice, the general manager invites staff to the meeting. So if there's a shortfall there, I'll ask the general manager if he can address that shortfall in the future.
Certainly through you, Madam Mayor. if the director feels that would facilitate discussion, debate and consideration, I'd certainly support that.
Yes, I would too. Okay, thank you, Director. I think the concerns about the flooding are noted. We'll put it to the vote.
My specific concern was the emergency flood access.
Oh, pardon me, the access.
It's once the flood's there, you've either got to get in or get out. And if you can't do either, then you become flooded in.
Thank you. All right, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. The next one is right over on page 256, and that's the 12/7/2364, the Young Cemetery Plan of Management. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Comments, Councillor Flannery?
Look, I'd like to speak to the motion because I think any reading of the report says we don't have much time to delay on this. However, I honestly, with all due respect, I've never read a worse written report. It's extraordinary the number of times that the same stuff is regurgitated to the point where it becomes just meaningless and a complete and utter waste of my time and whoever's time wrote it. 3 and 4 times we get the same feed of what the guidelines and core objectives of management of community land is. I mean, honestly, can't we just have what we're dealing with, where it fits into it, where this cemetery plan of management fits into it? I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just breathtakingly poorly done. And to me, it's a reflection of where the organisation's at.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. If you as the Chair, Mayor and the General Manager support this, I think it's...
That is not what I'm saying, Councillor Flannery. What concerns me is the derogatory statements that you're making about staff.
I did not make any. You inferred that. We need to sharpen what we're doing so that when we read reports, we know exactly where we're at, what we're dealing with, and what the objectives of the report are. We can't reasonably put this out on public display.
So through you,
Director?
through you, Madam Mayor, the actual management plan has been prepared by a consultant, and they've done it in relationship to the guidance that the state gives in terms of a templated plan of management. I absolutely agree, Councillor Flannery. I'm coming from a different cultural context. I think you could definitely do a lot to streamline and make this more legible. But this is following what the state considers best practice. It's been out on exhibition, and we've had that feedback. So today is about adopting this plan of management, so then we can go to the next critical phase, which is doing the review of environmental factors, doing the detailed design, so we can get on and expanding the cemetery.
Okay, so what...
Through you, Madam Mayor, just going on with the Director's comments, you'd probably owe Councillor Flannery an apology, I'd say.
Director, can I just make a point? I presume there is a template that has to be followed at the moment. That's more or less what you're saying.
So to me, Madam Mayor, this is based on, the consultant did the work and they did it in accordance with the guidance.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, through you.
Yes, Councillor Parker.
I think it was last meeting, Councillor Armstrong brought up a point about sub-water. Has there been anything been done about that? We don't want to go ahead with this and find that our bodies are sliding down the track on us.
Floating away, you mean? Yes, Director.
Yep.
I know work has been done.
Yes, so for you, Madam Mayor, this exercise is about the planning process and ensuring that we can then go to that next phase. The comments that Councillor Armstrong made about the hydrology of the site and making sure that that assessment is done is very much part of the next phase. And at this point in time, the baton gets handed from the planning directorate to the infrastructure directorate. As they go into doing their detailed design in particular, they will be definitely ensuring that the hydrological studies are there to support the proposed development.
Okay, thank you.
Another question.
Councillor Parker, another question?
I understand that consultants have done this preliminary work for us, but on page 313 or 312B, we are having a lawn cemetery, aren't we? Not a garden, botanic garden cemetery. The photo there is enormous, with progressive costs to council to keep it that way.
Director.
Yep. So through you, Madam Mayor, those pictures are from the master plan that was developed in 2016. They're there to show the context in which the plan of management was prepared. The plan of management is kind of the front end, and it's just ensuring that we've got the right planning environment in place so that we can do the review of environmental factors in the detailed design. The detailed design will look at this master plan and turn it into a proper plan. It is definitely a lawn cemetery. It is not a monumental cemetery. But that said, there needs to be, it's a large space, and there does need to be a focal point and a place for people just to rest and to dwell and have their amenities that go along with the site. Whether it looks like the master plan in 2016 or something different will be a matter that will come through the detailed design.
Thank you for that. Through you, Madam Mayor, in 2016, the council was then could well afford to look after and maintain a garden like that in them days.
Councillor Stagmiller.
Madam Mayor, pardon me and my voice tonight. I'm just unsure how we can proceed with this. You've only got to look at the financial implications. At present, there are no funds for any work related to developing a new cemetery. A $100,000 budget was allocated for the preparation of a plan of management, which we've now got, and subsequent REF approval and detailed design process. And then we look at the date in 2016, the preliminary cost estimates to deliver the 5 stages of the master plan over a 10-year period were, it could be double that now. I just don't see how we can commit ourselves to going forward with this unless the scope's refined and we provide enough room so that the relevant funeral directors can continue on for a short period of time and then seek further funding for this. It's pie in the sky at the moment to be basing this off a plan that's now coming up, depending on when it was done in 2016, 7, maybe 8 years old now. And we've seen the costs of materials go up 25 to 50%, depending on what it is in the last 12 months. So I'm going to struggle to vote for this in its current form based on those financial implications. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, look, the only comment I was going to make was that when this was done back before 2016 and it was worked out and looked at, we all agreed, the council at the time, that we needed to look into the future and be a bit proactive and not reactive, and to have a space where our loved ones and ourselves can be laid down and visited with some respect. Money will be a factor. It's a factor in everything. If there's one thing they tell you in life, is 2 certainties. One's taxes, another's death. It's most definitely needed, and funding sources will have to be looked for, Councillor Stagmiller, but I don't think that should in any way handicap or slow down the process.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. I think we've had discussion. No more comments. I'll put it to vote.
I'd like to just take my right of reply.
Yes.
So continuing where I left off, if this is all from the consultant, well then we need to certainly address the money that we paid to them for the report. I believe the report highlights a number of other issues with our existing monumental cemetery. It says the gates are showing signs of disrepair with paint peeling and some timber wearing away, mortars come away. These are historic features, and when we look at grants that are available from the state government and that we hand out annually, we hand out heritage grants annually. When I look at the St Mary's, the E's missing off cemetery. When I look at the report and on page 294, landscape maintenance, ensure maintenance of landscape to control weeds and encourage grasses, annual reduction of weed cover, and yet the report says that the monumental cemetery is generally in a state of disrepair. There's weeds growing. and a number of other factors that we have listed in our own report as part of our objectives of performance targets, means of achieving them, and assessing the achievement of community land categorised as culturally significant. So clearly we have some work to do in maintaining our assets. Clearly we need to apply for grants, and we need to perhaps put our own heritage grants towards the maintenance of our own assets. With that, I do note Councillor Stadmiller's comments about funding. We also need to start looking at funding grants, but we don't have a lot of time on this. You only have to divide the numbers to see that the 2.5 years is not imaginary, it's real. That we're basically having 50 people die a year. We've got 120 plots, so we need to get on with it. Otherwise, we'll quite literally say to people, your only option is cremation.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. All right, I'll put it to the vote now. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Stadmiller, that was against, am I right? Thank you.
That was begrudgingly for, based on the current...
Okay, thank you. So that's unanimous. Thank you. Now we move on to 12.8, 2365, distribution of council's financial assistance. Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Councillor Ingram.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Flannery touched on the consultant's report, the last item. The agenda and the paperwork and the information that was sent to councillors that sit on this committee, I'm sorry, I mentioned it at the meeting, it was disgraceful. It was totally disjointed, very hard to follow, nearly impossible. We had the meeting in the chambers with 3 of the most senior staff on council and a couple of junior staff. When questions were asked in regard to matters such as were financials provided, after being reassured 3 times by a staff member that they were, only to be told in the next 5 minutes of the debate they weren't. Mentioned it at the time, and it needs to be addressed. This program, and I've been on the committee since inception, and it was changed from the way it used to be done, needs to be improved, and the recommendation does state that. The director on the day got that correct, that it needs to be looked at, this fund. The policy that's in place now is not adhered to, and that's just not good enough. It's been let slide for too long. The community groups that are applying for these funding, as we said at the meeting, need to be made fully aware of what needs to be provided to council before, and probably more importantly, after acquittals for money that's been spent as community money. And as a council, we owe it to the community to make sure that when we hand out money, we know what's done with that money. And there's just been none of that happening. It's got to stop. The whole program has to be looked at. And with a bit of luck with the budget coming up, the amount of money that's on offer, 100,000 can be cut in half to 50,000, because we seem to have the same groups applying time in, time out, time in, time out. And we have to have 2 meetings just to hand it out. So on that point, it was very disappointing. The second disappointment for the meeting was one of the items that never made it through to be recommended to council to adopt, and that was funding for the one true community event that encompasses the entire Hilltops Council area. And that was the Hilltop spending spree. There's 5 councillors at the committee, and one had declared an interest and didn't vote, and not once but twice the chair of the meeting, who happened to be the mayor, voted twice not to support all the business houses in our community. So that was very disappointing on the day. Other than that, the report's in front of you, council, and I am pleased to acknowledge to the director that the request that has been made to have a look at this whole fund and how it's dealt with in the policy will be looked at by staff. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram.
Question through you, Madam Mayor. Could we be advised of what the otherwise grant might have been for the spending spree from council? The application amount?
It was $5,000.
Thank you. Look, I'm happy to donate some of, well, a month's salary, a month's councillor fees to, I think it's such a, I would happily donate one of my month's fees to support that. I think we as councillors need to see our local businesses supported, so I'll make sure that happens. Which additionally, so Mr. General Manager, could you ensure that happens, please? Separately, the money that was to go to the MURRUMBURRAH Netball and Soccer Carnival, that didn't ever proceed last year because of COVID. Could we be advised of, is that being rolled over this year, or what's happening with that money?
I think it's going in the bucket. That was another difference.
Councillor Flannery, yeah, now 14,000, I think in the last QBR was voted the library move. And I'm trying to think what there was another, out of the 26,000, there was another 10. I think the General Manager can help me, just slipped my mind right now whether we voted 10,000. It's in the QBR report last time. I'm just trying to think what the other 10,000 was.
That's correct. Madam Mayor, that it has been reallocated.
Oh, sorry. It was the Christmas lights. That's right. Yeah, sorry. It's in the last QBR. Beg your pardon. I had a memory lapse there. 10,000 went to the Christmas lights. So we're 2,000 out of the 26 and 14,000 for the MOVEABLE library.
So the for you, Madam Mayor, to the General Manager, the report really misstates the quantum of the allocation for community funding.
From a mathematics, yes, it's $2,000 short.
Correct.
If 14,000 was reallocated, I don't see.
24 was reallocated. 10,000 for the lights and 14 for the library move.
That's correct.
That's
and the library move is regarded as community funding.
It was voted by council to be attributed to the library move.
Wouldn't that be the business of council, not community funding?
It was resolved by council to reallocate that funding line to that.
I'm questioning how it's treated in the budget.
It's now treated as funding the library move.
Given we voted to have a community library at the high school, I would have expected this removal or moving expenses to be operational, not community. And in which case, 14,000 should be operational.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the line item, the 100,000 is a line item, and of that line item, 26,000 was allocated for a purpose, and then it was brought back to council to reallocate $24,000 of that 26,000 to another purpose. So through that, the community process, if you don't determine, and that's a question for councillors, 14,000 to move a community library to another area is not community. Council itself has revoted 14,000 from that pocket to another purpose. But you are correct, we are $2,000 short that may have been otherwise allocated.
So through you, Madam Mayor, just to give a bit of a background on the spending spree, I was disappointed for the businesses of the Hilltops region with the decision that was made at the sponsorship meeting. I also agree we do need to put a new policy in place around that because it was not the best information that we could have possibly wasn't dealt with in the best of ways on the day. But anyway, just a bit of a background. So this probably is the only inclusive Hilltops-wide promotion, and I would like to now start to call it an event because I consider it more an event now than a promotion. It's been going since 2019. Last year we had across the Hilltops, we had 131 participating businesses, and we had a total prize pool of $13,000. And anybody can enter the program as a business, and anybody can participate. Now, this takes all of the towns and villages in. Anyone can participate. Anyone can enter the program. So it's probably the only event that we actually do to support business. I even have businesses that just come on board to support the actual region to say, here, I'm on board with this. You know, we have just any amount of all different businesses jump on board with this. So we all know also that it's a strong linkage to tourism, having a strong retail sector. If people come to town, we want to go shopping, we want to grab a coffee, we want to look around, we want to experience the hilltops, and we want to give back to the customers. We want to keep the money here in town. It's particularly at Christmas time. We need people through our door, whatever door it is. We need to create some interest. We need it sort of bonds the community together. People now wait for this event to happen. They say, when is it coming? What's the prize money? They're really invested in it now. And there's also a bit of a, Hilltops did do a program evaluation in 2020 based on 2019 and 2020, which in it expressed that based on 94 participating businesses back in 2020, it generated an income across the Hilltops of $135,000, which now it's up to 131. That's obviously considerably more. Going on to a few just general facts that the report showed. It sort of said the questions it asked were increases locals spending in local businesses was up 80%, shows communities' interest in promoting local business, 80%, improves awareness of local business, 82%, encourages people from outside the Hilltops Council area to shop in a local business, 9%. Then it sort of asked a few general questions, which, what did you like about the program? Number 1 response was local community involvement. Number 2 was it was a great idea. Number 3, a possible community thing to do. Number 4, I like that it promotes local business to keep the money in the community. And number 5 was keeping shopping locally top of mind. Now, they also did, there was 38, but I'll only read the top 5. What did you dislike about the program? So the number 1 response was they would have liked more information about how much money was available. Number 2, which was interesting, that the council didn't come on board. Number 3 was a non-applicable. Number 4, there was nothing, they liked it. And number 5 was once again not enough promo. So you can see that this program actually works. I also would like to just comment on that too, we have lost the loft last year. I'm just talking Young. I'm not too sure about Borrowera and Hard MURRUMBURRAH, but we've lost the loft. We have just lost our Mathers shoe store, and without preempting, and I have not got confirmation, but Miller's is in doubt also. Yeah. So I just heard that, but I haven't confirmed that. So, when you're looking at trying to get people through our doors, and we've had 3 major shops in the main street of Young already, and like I said, with respect, I'm not too sure about Borrowera and Harden. I know there's a little bit of movement in Borrowera. We need the people through our doors, and this is one thing that really does help us out generally.
Can I just ask, because I'm not sure really how it does work, do the businesses contribute to it?
Yes, the buy-in is $100, and then with the sponsorship money, so the $100 is the actual prize money, and that's all the business has to contribute is 100. And then the sponsorship money, no, it doesn't. No.
That may not be my place. With the $2,000 that Councillor Flannery has assisted us with, the recommendation from, well, first of all, the recommendation from the committee is the recommendation of the committee. You as councillors have the ability to change that recommendation and allocation of all of those monies. And the second part is without doing any changes to what has already been publicly acknowledged, you could allocate $2,000 to that event by adding
Mr. General Manager, I believe we've got a move and a seconder. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, that's why I'm about to ask the question of those, the mover and the seconder for Councillor Ingram and Flannery. Is that something that they would...
Can we put the motion and anything else that is business for the next meeting? Madam Mayor, can we put the motion?
Yes.
Could I write a reply before the motion?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And the Deputy Mayor has done a great job and covered off some of the points that I'd noted down. At a time in local businesses where shop fronts are closing quicker than ever, and we talked about the struggle with the cost of living earlier on, a sign from Hilltops Council, and coming not once but twice from the Mayor of that council to twice vote against supporting the local event for a Hilltops region, I found highly repugnant, highly hypocritical and very naive to say the least. Given on Councillor Flannery's point, I, not as a councillor, as a shearing contractor, an employer of anywhere up to 15 to 20 people at any one time, over $1 million in wages that are paid, 95% of those wages are spent locally. I'm happy to contribute $1,250 towards this event because I think it's important that as a community we bond together. And for someone, especially someone who sits in the chair of the mayor, to vote against it twice is just inconceivable. So my offers, and I'll take it up with the Deputy Mayor, and $1,250, and I take a Council Flannery will match that. And then the General Manager seems to think he can find $2,000 somewhere, we'll get close to the mark. So on that note, you can put it now.
Before we put it, I feel that I should
speaking for or against it, or we're going to put it. I've had right of reply at the end of the debate. Madam Mayor, put the matter. Let's get some process back into our council.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. I sometimes wonder who is in charge at the moment.
Don't we all?
I beg your pardon.
I'm sorry, I said don't we all?
I apologise to anybody looking at this.
What, for voting twice against supporting a community event?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I can't say anything.
Can I say something before it is put? I can respond. When we came to this meeting for the financial assistance, and we were down to, 19,000, as was said before, these grants are...
I was given the right of reply, which is the last matter on an item to be spoke to. You had your chance to speak, Madam Mayor, before the matter was put, and before I had the right of reply. I think that opportunity's gone.
Just a moment, we're just checking on the rules. And if you're right, Councillor Ingram, I'm happy to...
Can I just comment? Because I'm finding really, I'm really very confused about the ins and outs of the whole process, even though Alison was very good in sort of giving us a bit of a highlight. But I mean, just quickly for me, it's sort of a bit like, it's good in theory, but I think in practice, it's not a very good project. Just from standing from the outside, it looks like
in what?
Well, even when you see 100,
we're not in
Thank you. Thank you. We're not in committee. We're not in committee. I agree. I think we'll put the motion. All right. Those in favour?
Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Rolls, Councillor Hewson, Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Piper, Councillor Stadmiller. Those against?
Those against?
Councillor Ingram, Councillor Mackey. I'm sorry, Councillor Fawn. I didn't. Oh, you're abstaining, of course. I'm sorry. Thank you. Motion's passed.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Piper. Councillor Armstrong, any comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, these are significant works that need to be done to improve the safety and general amenity of some significant thoroughfares. I do note that Rugby Road is going to receive $420,000 out of this, and Jugong Road is receiving $300,000, and Henry Lawson Way is receiving $420,000.
$420,000.
My apologies.
$420,000. My own personal experience with Henry Lawson Way and Jugiong Road is that I think that with respect, $420,000 and $300,000 probably isn't going to get much done. I'd like to think that the new state government could stump up a few extra dollars by some means and help us, like so many other councils, bring these roads into a better state of repair and safety.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? If not, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on now to 1210. I'm right. Regional and local road repairs.
I'd like to move a motion from the floor, Madam Mayor. That's what happens, yeah.
Thank you.
My motion is A, receive and note the report. B, adopt the proposed project allocations for the regional and local road repair program as presented in attachment 2 of this report. Delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the regional and local road program.
We have a mover and a seconder for that motion from the floor. Councillor Ingram.
Okay, thank you. We had this matter brought to us at a workshop where it was discussed at great length by the councillors who were there. And we talked about why the funding was provided. And the funding was provided for the repair of damaged roads from all the storms. So council had got a list together of roads they'd conditioned, and all those roads in that report meet the criteria of number 5, in a state of repair that needs to be addressed. So that ticks that box off. The second box, the funding was provided, and they went to great lengths to announce that the funding was provided and worked out on the length of the road networks from the kilometres. So when the first allocation, attachment 1 came to council, and I said, oh, that doesn't even look anywhere close to where a fair and equitable, as stated by the director at the workshop, allocation would be. The attachment 2, as you can see, whilst not ideal, it is a much better spread of the money that's been provided to the council to look after a larger number of roads. Some of the roads in the first attachment had serious funding from other allocations, and for some reason they just seem to keep popping up. If you look at the little chart that staff actually provided, the allocation by road length, and you see, and you talk about being fair and equitable, if you were in your own areas, it shows you very, very clearly how much money should be allocated to those areas. Now, I know, I won't presume because that's dangerous. It was mentioned at the workshop, but that some of those roads were put there because of flooding. And they were closed at times, so they should jump the priority list. No. The money that's been provided is not going to stop those roads from being flooded. They're going to repair the damage that was done by the floods, but they're not going to stop the roads from flooding. The roads will be repaired till the flooding comes again, because where those roads are, and over the last 25 years, they're repeatedly flooded, and they will be again. So to use an argument to say the funding's there to fix the flooding, no, it's there to fix the damage done by the flooding, because it won't fix the actual flooding. So looking at the criteria that the money was given to council for, and the attachment 2, that while there's a lot of areas, and I spoke at the workshop and said, I'm not too sure how staff came up with the numbers, but they have attempted to spread it out and hopefully go some way towards repairing a lot of the roads that are condition 5 and need to be fixed. So I would ask councillors to think about how the money was allocated to council and how you would expect councillors to allocate it to our communities. Given on attachment now is the traffic movements, and you'll see where the traffic movements are, a lot of them. I don't believe the bus route matter was solved. Councillor Armstrong only brought that up once before. Some of these roads are bus routes and aren't marked. I don't think that's been corrected. But I would strongly ask councillors' support in supporting my motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Before we go any further, could I ask the Director if you'd like to make a comment on this, which might allow us then to have a more considered view?
Excuse me, through Madam Mayor. Sorry to interrupt you. Can you check that your microphone is on? I've just had a text saying that those viewing can't hear. Thank you.
Sorry about that, through Madam Mayor. Sorry to those of you that have to hear that again. The allocation, when the grant funding bodies put together the amount of money that was going to be allocated per council, they thought it was fair and equitable to base it on the number of kilometres of road in the council area. That's how the value was decided, and that was what the funding was based on. The actual allocation within each council area is up for council to determine. Allocation 1 was to have the opportunity to provide much needed funds without using revenue funds to repair roads that needed that. And the second allocation was if we had to base it on total number of kilometres of road per previous local government area, that would be the attachment number 2. And that's what those two tables are there for.
Thank you. I would like to move an amendment.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if an amendment is proposed, the amendment needs to be dealt with first, and then if the amendment is passed, the amendment to the motion becomes the motion. So, Madam Mayor, your amendment.
Madam Mayor, I also have a foreshadowed amendment.
All right, but we deal with the amendment.
Deal with the amendment.
And then if that doesn't get passed, then we go to the foreshadow.
Yeah.
We've got to go to the foreshadowed anyway.
Yes. Yeah. So just to be clear, the process, deal with whatever amendment's about to be put forward. That gets voted upon. That then becomes the motion. The motion then, whatever motion, whether it's the motion that is before us or the amended motion, should that motion fail, then we go to the foreshadowed motion from Councillor Armstrong.
All right. My amendment, receive and note the report, adopt the proposed project of allocations for the regional and local road repair program as presented in attachment 1 of this report, and delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation.
Point of order. I think if you go to our Code of Meeting Practice 10.11, you will find that amendment is a direct negative to the motion that I put to council. It isn't allowed to be.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the allocation of funding is not a direct negative.
Mr. General Manager, I hasten and not hasten is what I'm after to disagree with you. It is a direct negative in the fact that it's looking to reallocate $500,000 in a motion I move to be allocated on roads that are in the Young District to the MURRUMBURRAH District. Tell me how that is not a direct negative on the funding proposal that I put to council. Of course it is.
Through Madam Mayor, with respect, I don't see it that way. The other councillors may agree with you. The recommendation was staff was an allocation of the funding. All of the funding is still to be allocated within the Hilltops, which conforms with the grant. The allocation and movement of that funding is not a direct negative. It's a discussion around the points consistent with the allocation of road funding within the confines of the grant. We're not saying not to allocate funding. It's where is
you're redirecting $500,000 from the road network in the young community to the MURRUMBURRAH community roads. You tell me it's not a direct negative.
As I've stated,
if allocating $500,000 away from a motion isn't negative, I don't know what is.
But wasn't that what happened in the first place?
Point of order. I actually clarification. We have a 4.1023/67. We have a motion in front of us, and we've had an alternative motion put up, which is actually, in my view, an amendment of the original motion, and the Mayor is seeking to re-put the original motion. I believe we have to vote on the amendment to the original motion, which is Councillor Ingram's amendment, before we can vote back the original motion as per the business paper.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the motion that was put forward by Councillor Ingram was the motion. It wasn't an amendment to the motion. The recommendation of the report was, as I read the amendment put by Madam Mayor, that still does not have a seconder, by the way.
The reason that Councillor Ingram put the matter as a motion was because he's had advice that moving an amendment is a direct negative to the motion that was on the books. That's why it was done that way.
I'll second the motion, Madam Mayor.
You will second the motion?
Yep.
Your motion.
Second the amendment.
Should the motion have been put forward, and Councillor, you would put forward an amendment, my advice would still be the same, that the amendment to change that part of the motion would be the same, and we have to deal with what is now the motion, because there's been no amendment voted. There would have been dealt with your amendment.
I never put an amendment, Mr. General Manager.
I understand that. What I'm saying is that had it been reversed, my advice would still be the same, is that your amendment, if the numeral had been reversed.
It didn't happen that way.
Exactly. Well, absolutely.
It didn't happen that way on advice.
My advice is I do not believe it's a negative, so I believe the amendment should be voted on. However,
I don't believe that's your role. Mr. General Manager?
I'm only giving advice. It's up to the chair to
It's up to the
decree.
chair to decide. And as always, I lean to the professional advice. So I take the advice that it's not a direct negative. And so therefore, we will vote on the amendment. Am I correct in what I'm saying? It has been moved and it has been seconded. And if I read it through before we vote on it.
We're allowed to have speakers for and against, Madam Mayor.
Pardon me. Yes. All right. As the mover of the amendment, I will speak for it. Over the last few weeks, I've actually gone down all these roads that were put into attachment 1. We're talking about Hilltops. All these roads that I went down. In fact, it was from all over. The only road that I didn't get down was Began, and I apologise for that. But coming back from Jugiong last night, it was just too late. All these roads need work on them. I was surprised, actually, and this is on a Sunday, maybe it was coming home from holidays, but the amount of traffic that was on roads such as Taylor's Flat Road and Rees Flat Road, which in a way have become tourist roads, especially with Angler, the boats and caravans that as I passed on the Sunday afternoon. And I would argue that a number of those are coming from other areas within Hilltops. At the meeting also that we had, or the workshop, my comment was that we have staff who have more expertise, certainly than me, that we rely on. I also think that in some ways, sometimes it's a more impartial view in what is needed in our area. And that is why I've put this amendment. Speak against?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to...
Councillor Stadmiller. Councillor Stadmiller. And then...
I'd like to speak against the amendment, Madam Mayor.
Right. Councillor Stadmiller, first of all.
Madam Mayor, I'm happy with seconding and then moving to a vote after the necessary speaking for and against.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Councillor.
Thank you. Look, I think the both attachments obviously aim to repair our roads. I think attachment 2 simply allocates the funding more broadly and covers a bigger spectrum of the council area. Whether we like it or not, had we been 3 separate shires, we would have been allocated the money as per more closely to attachment 2. I think the flooding has affected the council area just as significantly, not more significant in one area or the other. And I think it is beholden on us to put the funding to all ratepayers, not selectively. And clearly attachment 1 is more selective in the allocation. I can't see why we would possibly not vote against attachment 2.
Can I say something quickly?
First of all, Councillor Ingram, do you want to speak? I thought the only reason I say that was that
you spoke for it. Councillor Flannery spoke against it. You're after someone to speak for your amendment. I don't think I'm going to do that.
I was just taking it in turns.
Let's give the process back.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. Councillor Mackie.
I just want to quickly say that, you know, we all talk about the storm damage. Storm damage wasn't spread equally across all regions. And I always think that it's okay to say, I'm on the worst road in Hilltops. But my argument is you have to travel every road to know that you are on the worst road. And I just take great, I believe in a process and that we pay professionals to actually pull together some data to make this stuff work. I don't know. I've not.
Where's the data?
Well, I'm sure they go out and actually.
You have the right to talk without interruption.
Yeah. I'm sure they go out and make assessments and have their own personal, professional data as they go about their business. So, I mean, I look at it and I think, yes, it looks generous to the old Burruwa area. We're not in that anymore. We are Hilltops. But I also think that perhaps there has been more damage done to those roads.
Thank you.
Now I'm happy to speak against your motion, your amendment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ingram.
And the reasons, I've already spoken to a number of reasons why I believe attachment 2 is a much more fair and equitable solution for this money. A couple of points that were raised about staff providing us with this and expert knowledge. And at the workshop and 2 workshops it was asked, how did they came up, and Councillor Mackey's point about with data, how did they come up with these numbers? We've never seen any data. When it was asked at the workshop, and I know you weren't able to be present, staff couldn't tell me how they come up with these numbers. I can give you an example. I gave the example at the workshop of, dare I mention it, Bibbaringa Road, then Racecourse Creek Road, just out towards Wombat. One has 2 sections, small section, a culvert needs work, and another section a bit further up on a section of road that goes for about 5 kilometres, $150,000. Bibbaringa Road is to the point where it's nearly unpassable. It is an absolute disgrace, and it is, while I'm on the subject, I've mentioned this at 2 council meetings about the state of that road. Not one sign, not one staff member has been anywhere near that road 2 months to even consider looking at what, dare say, Councillor Ingram raised. It is a disgrace. If you want to have a look at how bad we're performing, meet me at the front at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'll take you for a run. You will not believe what you see, but I'll get back to this one now. That's just one road and how staff came up with these numbers. The numbers in the attachment 1 would come up pretty easy. They put an application into another fund a while back for big money for a couple of roads, and it was refused by the state. So obviously the application wasn't good enough. So I don't know what data they provided for that one neither. But this has no backing to it. The attachment 1 had no data, no correct information. All the roads are assessed the same. The numbers are there. They're all assessed as 5 with the same amount of damage. In the last column is the usage of those roads, which speaks another point without saying too much. And are used as bus routes, which they're not on there, but the local people would know that which of those roads they are actually bus routes. So that all supports very much towards attachment 2, being spread more evenly over everyone. I've got nothing against the poorer area, and I don't deny that the roads need attention, one bit. But I don't deny that the roads in attachment 2 don't need attention as well, just as much. And to be fair to our community, our ratepayers and our road users, I think it's best if the money is distributed more evenly, fairly and equitably. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question for the Director, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
Attachment 1 and 2, what data do we have on the roads? And would you describe Category 5 rating as long-term neglect or just flood damage, purely flood damage?
Through you, Madam Mayor. The data on that is that those roads were assessed by our asset inspectors and the staff that go out there. One of the criteria that we look at when we look at these roads is, for example, I'll use Taylor's Flat Road. There are sections of the road that are pretty good, but there are sections of the road that are really bad. And clearly the funding that is provided in these tables is not going to go anywhere close to rehabilitating all the roads across the entire length of the road. So it is about not only looking at the current damage on the road, but also the potential of increasing the damage. There are some areas of Frogmore and Table Sprat that are down to dirt, purely because there were so many potholes. We repaired the potholes so many times that we actually now need to go and do a heavy patching on it. And you can see that most of the treatments that we are including in there is heavy patching, but also drainage. Drainage is a key factor that we are trying to bring in every time we touch a road so that the long-term effects of the repairs are better than just fixing the road itself. And those are through photographic evidence, through Reflect, we've assessed those roads and we've taken a lens on it, including are there other opportunities where we can apply for funding for these same roads and what are those criteria for the funding? So criteria for funding is also in fact a factor of can we get funding from elsewhere? And the comment is made that yes, we do continuously seek funding. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. And it's about how the feedback that we've got every time we go is no, it's not necessarily the quality of the application. We just have so much money, and that's how we decided. So there's no science around how much we get when these applications go in, but we continue to seek additional funding. And attachment 2 is applying the same methodology on the roads, just basing it on kilometres.
Thank you, Director. So we're still on this amendment.
Can I speak for the amendment?
So you're putting it that the amendment be put?
Please, there's been 2 for, 2 against.
Okay, we'll vote. For the amendment to be put, I'll read it out. That Council receive and note the report, adopt the proposed project allocations for the regional and local road repair program as presented in attachment 1 of this report, and C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the regional and local road repair program. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
My question is to the General Manager. How will the General Manager provide Council with regular updates as to the costs and the progress of these 25 odd projects, and the likelihood of their exceeding the budgets as said in this document?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd seek the input of the Director of Infrastructure in relation to how progress will be reported back.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the reports that we bring to Council will now be on a quarterly basis, and that includes all the capital works program. Once this has been voted on and whatever attachment is provided as the one that we work to, it will become a capital works program, and that capital works program will be reported on a quarterly basis.
Question?
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank the Director for that. I do note that in the past, where capital works...
I might call a point of order, Councillor Armstrong. We decided to put...
My apology.
We did. You're quite right, Councillor Ingham.
I was breaking into the foreshadowed amendment.
Okay. All right. We're back to this amendment. We'll vote. Those in favour?
Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor Macking, Councillor Rolls, Councillor Piper, Councillor Stagmiller. Those against? Councillor Ingram, Councillor Ford, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Pearson, Councillor Armstrong. So 5 all, you have the casting vote, Madam Mayor.
And my casting vote is for it.
Not only don't like the shops, you don't like our road use.
Through you,
Thank you, Councillor.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, councillors.
Thank
you, councillors. Please.
And I'll continue.
So through you,
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
The amendment has now been carried. It therefore becomes the motion, and now the motion is to be debated.
All right. Do you have a motion up?
Question. Could the Director, the General Manager, please advise us? I'd like to move an amendment to the table.
You certainly can, Councillor Flannery.
I'd like to amend the table to reduce the allocation to Frogmore Road from 600,000 to 300,000. Allocate 300,000 to Bibaringa Road. And that Moppity Road allocation be included and that Houstonia Road be excluded. Please, and I'll talk to the motion. Talk to the amendment.
All right, do you need a seconder? Do we have a seconder?
A seconder.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Flanagan.
Gentlemen, we'll wait for the minute secretary to put those up. But so reduce Frogmore Road from 600,000 to 300,000. That is correct, Councillor Flanagan. And Moppity Road to be included for the sum of yeah. So removed. Right.
And it makes Bibaringa Road 6. Yes.
Yes. Bibaringa Road is now
sorry, Madam Mayor, you're correct. I've missed it. To include Moppity Road and the 300,000 from Frogmore Road to be included in Moppity Road and Houstonia Road to remain in.
Right. So I'm sorry, Councillor, given that Frogmore Road 600,000 to 300,000, Moppity Road to be included for 200,000.
Additional 100,000 on Bibaringa Road.
Bibaringa Road 100,000 increase. Bibaringa.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Stamler.
When do we receive the van with all of the special equipment on it which can provide the data for the roads so that we could have a more detailed report into the state of each road?
I'll pass that to the Director.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the vehicle will be in the Hilltops area in the next week or so. However, the report will not be available for the deadline to submit these roads as the allocated roads, which is due the 22nd of May. We have brought this to 2 council meetings now. We need to have a list of roads that we're going to give the funding agent by the 22nd of May. That will probably not be available. The outcome of this whole report will not be available until the end of May, which means that we won't have that data going forward. Once we have that data, which will be presented to council, that will form the basis of any further funding allocations that we bring to council.
Thank you. Answer your question, Councillor Stamler? Okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the minute secretary is just about to put up information as we understand it. So, Councillor Flannery. No. Yep. Councillor Flannery, is that the correct allocation that you amended on? Thank you.
Just a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor.
Are we running off attachment 1 or attachment 2? Frogmore Road on attachment 1 is 600,000, but in attachment 2, it's only got 260,000.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the vote was to the motion as it now stands as amended. It is attachment 1. It is the first table that is being amended. So you will see there that Frogmore Road has 600,000 proposed to reduce to 300,000. You then go to including Moppity Road, which is not on that list, for 200,000, and then Bibaringa Road moved from 300,000 to 400,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And remove Houstonia.
And no, there's been a reallocation with the with the reduction that's only moving effectively it's moving $300,000 to Moppity Road and increasing Bibbaringa Road. As I understand it, Councillor.
I'd like to talk to the motion.
Yes,
look, it's about 8% change in funding allocation, so it's not big in the scheme of things. Moppity Road, I haven't heard once a risk-based approach described in any of this allocation. Moppity Road, I would believe, is becoming, and I don't have the data, but I use it frequently and I see cars coming off from where I live frequently in trucks. It's the gateway to Sydney and Canberra. There are a significant number of workers from Young who travel Moppity Road. It's a bus route. It has suffered significant stormwater and flooding damage throughout the year, and I would think as much as any of the roads, it would qualify on that regard. It has an 8-tonne load limit, which is ignored daily. I think we should scrap that 8-tonne load limit. We should scrap the money we pay to weights and measures, because I think we'd be better off putting that money into actual road funding. Still waiting on that report from council. But look, I would commend the changes. I don't believe they're significant, but I think Moppity Road as a bus route and as the road that everyone has to access for Canberra and Sydney, and you would be surprised how many of our tradies work in Canberra and travel that road daily. And on a risk-based approach, I'm amazed there hasn't been a significant accident there already. So I would commend that and hope that I can get support. Thank you.
Can I just say something quickly?
Yes.
Because I found this out when I was coming back from work, coming to a meeting a couple of months ago, that when you actually put in Canberra to Young, they'll take you through Burruah. So, and I think most of the traffic actually comes through Burruah.
I think overall
there's
an increase in traffic anywhere you go. Okay. We have a motion. Have we got any other?
We have the amendment. We're now voting upon the amendment to effectively table 1 for councillors' consideration. Once we've voted upon that amendment, then we'll go back to the motion, whether it exists as it stands, which is the original table 1, or the table 1 that has been amended per the motion from Councillor Flannery and Councillor Ingram.
Everybody heard that? All right. Question, Councillor Stadmiller.
Madam Mayor, I can't actually see Moppity Road on here, so we're just adding a road and potentially adding $300,000 to it. Is that a standard protocol to do that or not? I can't see Moppity Road on either list.
I think it was listed as Councillor Flannery said in last month's paper as a road that would be considered. Is that right? Am I right, Director?
As an alternative, through you, Madam Mayor.
As an alternative.
If it was, it would have just been nice to have been here so we could have seen if it was allocated anything in the first place, because it is quite an important road, as Councillor Flannery detailed. So to have it missed off both Table 1 and Table 2 is a little disappointing. Anyway, happy to proceed.
So we're here to vote to amend Table 1 to include Frogmore Road, reduced from 600,000 to 300,000. Include Moppity Road, 200,000, and Bibbaringa Road increased by 100,000. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour?
Those in favour?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The ayes have it. Okay. Against?
Against.
4.
Gerald, Mackie, Rolls, and Piper. The amendment is carried, so the motion that is now to be debated is exactly as transcribed, except instead of the Table 1 has been amended by the amendments before you. Well, the amendments as carried, which has now become the motion
So we're
I'll move that motion.
All right. And seconded. We've had quite a discussion. Anybody want to speak? Put to vote. Those in favour?
Aye.
All right. Sorry. I'm sorry. So for Councillor Ingram, Borum, Fitzgerald, Mackie, Flannery, Rolls, Hewson, Stadmiller. Those against? Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Piper. The motion is carried.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you, councillors. We're up to 12:11, and it's the Murrumburrah Bridge naming. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. A second, Councillor Armstrong.
Question for the Director, Madam Mayor. Noting the report, technically does this bridge naming have to go back out on public exhibition?
Do you have a view, Director?
One of the recommendations through you, Madam Mayor, is that it does go out on public exhibition, but if it doesn't need to go out, then we don't need to. But I've just thought, as per protocol, this was the original naming was put to public exhibition, but if it's a decision of council that it doesn't need to go, then I'm happy to not put it on public exhibition.
Through Madam Mayor, look, I think the protocol is we went out and we came back with a difference. I think it's fair that councillors can vote upon it. However, Murrumburrah Bridge is different to Murrumburrah Bridge, which is different to the original one. So if you feel it's appropriate to go back out, as we recommend, it goes back out. The people that voted obviously for Murrumburrah would probably still endorse it. So we're in your hands, Councillor. I don't think there's a hard and fast protocol that it needs to. However,
well, I'd like to move that point B that it be put back out on public exhibition.
Once.
Yeah.
I think there were 19, weren't there?
Oh, sorry.
It has been. We have had public consultation. I presumed you were saying once we chose the name that it went back out. Any other comments? All right, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour?
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. The next one, 1212, 2369, hydrotherapy pool at the KRUGER Health and Wellness Centre. Do I have a mover?
Could I move that this be put into confidential, please? I think there's a number of items, personal items that need to be discussed.
Yes, you'll move. Mover and a seconder?
I'll second that.
All right. I've got a third or two. If there's comment, we'll put it to vote. Those who would like to see this put in confidential. Councillor Armstrong.
Question. And the reason it'll be going into confidential is, are they consistent with the principles of entering into a closed meeting?
Oh, I believe so. I believe they relate to other commercial business the council has.
Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Councillor Armstrong, have you? Oh. All right. Councillor.
Just a question or maybe a comment to the Director. I see A is receive and note the report. B is select an option or options for further investigation. When I spoke about the previous item we dealt with, it was recommended a course of action. So it's good to see that apparently you can say in a report, select an option, which wasn't done with the previous matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. All right. No more comments. I'll put it to vote. Those in favour of moving it into confidential? I think it's unanimous. Thank you.
Can I suggest that we defer the matter at the moment and move it into the closed part of the meeting, so as we don't have to close the meeting twice?
I think that's an excellent suggestion, actually. Councillor Armstrong?
procedural motion, or we just have to get that on that? Yeah, I think we'll just do that. We'll just move it in. We'll just move it to the agenda. Do you feel that we need a motion for that, Councillor? I think we do. Okay. The confidential section.
Okay.
So, yep. So, yep. So, I suppose the original motion, we need to put that motion again, I suspect, with the movers of Flannery and Fitzgerald to move it, the same intent, but for procedural correctness. Please note again, I suppose. We move that, please. Yes. All in favour? Yes. Yep. Carried.
Okay. The next one, 12-13-2370, Growing Regional Economies Fund. Thank you, Councillor Flannery and Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've dealt with this before, Madam Mayor, the issue of council being short on time to deal with significant grant applications. I note the grant opened on the 8th of February and today's the 26th of April, which I think is very, very regrettable and very, very disappointing. Without knowing the inner workings of council, it strikes me that the option we've been provided with and the timeline with which we've been provided, that perhaps the extent of the discussion has been, shivers, this grant's coming up. We better think of something. There we go, Wickham Lane. I don't regard it as significantly regional in nature. I don't know what the basis of the application is. I can think of other roads, if we want to mention roads, the Maringo Gap Road for one. I mean, we did talk about Maringo Gap Road, A, because of the hazardous nature, B, it came up on a funding application at council. I'm not too sure whether it was submitted or considered submitting the Maringo Gap because it would get heavy vehicles from Olympic Highway across through Burra and take them so they didn't have to go through Young, and yet it hasn't rated a mention. We've got Burra water supply. We've got a number of pools that could reasonably be argued that are regional in nature, although you have to run a thin line across that one. We've got the Cunningar industrial expansion precinct, doesn't rate a mention, transport hub, and we've got the Gaylong Rail Trail, and we've come up with Wickham's Lane. I'm lost for words.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Director, do you want to comment?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this is an expression of interest only. It is, we have criteria that we need to meet. Are we an eligible entity, etc.? We are. The reason for Wickham Lane is purely because there are a lot of developments along that road, and there have not been, should I say, all the services and previous developments, and there are still developments happening on that road. That is a potential growth area for housing, and that is where we see the link in terms of regional importance. If you take a look at the criteria, the objectives is objective 4 in the criteria is ensure regional communities have infrastructure and services to ensure the growth for a sustainable growth. And Wickham Lane is, at the moment, got quite a few development applications in, and that's where it is. It's not for transport routes. It's not for freight routes. There are other things where if you want to start a business or do something else there, that's something that can be considered. This is only an expression of interest. They will then select from an expression of interest, and only then will a full detailed submission be done with costings, etc. There's no costings attached to this. It has to be a minimum of $2 million, and that's why we went for Wickham Lane, to support the development on that road to improve the housing capability.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Regional significance, on page 354, regional significance projects that can demonstrate they are regionally significant by benefits to 2 or more local government areas will be preferred, and collaboration between stakeholders within a functional economic region is strongly encouraged. I'm not too sure where Wickham Road fits in that, because I would have thought Cowra, Grenfell, all towns would like to have their own housing developments proceed. So I don't know where we'll be getting support from another council. When I read through the grant application last night through the government's website, I couldn't see where Wickham Lane fitted any of the criteria. And to say that it's only an expression of interest, I think misstates the importance of the expression of interest. It outlines the case on which you're going to put forward your application. I think we need to do some serious thinking about what we need to apply for, and Wickham Lane wouldn't be top of my list. I would have the Gaylong Rail Trail. I think a case could quite reasonably be put.
Got to be joking.
For a transport hub at Cunningar, I would have thought would be top of mind.
Thank you, Councillor
LP, and yet we've totally missed it.
Councillor Ingram.
Madam Mayor, we tried for a precinct once before, and we were unsuccessful in obtaining support from council for the precinct at Cunningar, weren't we? We did try for that, and I agreed it was a very worthwhile cause, and it still is. But I would take you to task on your comments about Wickham Lane. It's been had no love for a long, long time, but it has had development. And there are subdivisions going on, and there are more subdivisions happening. And what's provided there by council now, and the previous council, dare I say, isn't up to standard. So I would support it because it is an area. And we talked at the workshop about adjoining councils. Well, it's a bit hard with us unless you're going to go and throw some money at Yass or Cowra. I can't see the sense in that. I did make the comment that we are 3 former council areas in one now. So that might count. I don't know if the state government still takes that into consideration, council plenary, but I would urge you not to dismiss the need for works to be done. And if you'd like to take a drive at any time again, Wickham Lane, I'm pretty sure could justify the money. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. I take it that's a 4.
Can we move into we move into committee? So
before we do that, there is Councillor Stadmiller had his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on regionally significant projects and ones that go across LGAs, you've got a solar farm that's got a post in the ground at Cootamundra. You've got a proposed solar farm in the Yass Valley, so there may be opportunities to tie in there. The other one that did pique my interest was the rail trail from Bora to Gaylong, but again, it doesn't go across the shire boundaries that they would prefer it does. Wickham Lane really needs to support itself off the back of its own development and through the support of council out of a general fund. I don't think they're going to look at a laneway and see that as being regionally significant at all. We've got to think of some sort of big ticket item here, or at least a cross-border one in some way, at a minimum. Otherwise, we're wasting our time and that of our staff.
Can I ask
thank you.
through you, Madam Mayor?
We move into committee. Second.
I need a seconder. Those in favour?
Those in favour, please. Gerald, Mackie, Flannery, Rolls, Houston, Armstrong, Piper, Stadmiller, those against.
Okay. We'll move into committee.
Can I just quickly ask through you, Madam Mayor, to the Director? Councillor Flannery mentioned rural water. Would it fall into this sort of space?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the MURRUMBURRAH pipeline, we are exploring other avenues for that funding. It's still not interregional. The pipeline is not. And that's why we look at the funding criteria, we see where best. And the link that we saw with Wickham Lane was housing, and housing is a crisis, not just in the Hilltops area. The young is very commutable, and that's why we believe that could. And once we do that, and we do not take expressions of interest lightly, we need to put forward a case as to why they would select this. But the detailed work around costing and design, etc., will only happen once this project is selected. But it is a program that we have been looking at what we can do with Wickham Lane.
Sorry, and just through you, Madam Mayor, the pipeline would be, from all estimates I've seen, in excess of $30 million, which knocks it out of this one.
Okay. Now, if we're in committee, I think the normal process we've followed at different times is to go round. So, if we follow that process, maybe we'll start with you, Councillor Stadmiller, since you're often neglected if you're on Zoom.
That's all right. Look, I agree with Councillor Flannery and the General Manager there with the pipeline, but money's definitely going to be an issue there. It'll be a federal government, state government proposal that has any chance of putting that together. And we got told about 5 years ago when Noel Blair was still an upper house politician in the National Party that there was $50 million needed, so I'm not sure quite exactly where it's up to now. So, look, maybe that does blow that out of the water. Probably happy to be guided by staff now based on that.
Thank you. Councillor Piper, do you want to make a comment? No. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the workshop, I did express my great concern that even though I support improvement of services in Wickham Lane, that I didn't believe that this particular project met the key criteria. And as a result of that, I don't believe that it has much potential for success. At that time, I did suggest that perhaps if that inter-LGA factor was a prime factor, then we have any number of roads that go that connect other LGAs to other LGAs through our LGA. And I point specifically to Taylor's Flat Road, which council's just been advised is a very busy road, and people with boats. I think you said, Madam Mayor.
Yes, I was amazed on the Sunday when I went.
So they're probably going to somewhere where there's a fair bit of water. But that's probably going to be in Carashire. Our neighbours, they probably come from perhaps Upper Lachlan or Yass Valley. To my way of thinking, that is an inter-local governmental local government corridor that suits this style of funding, if that is the prime criteria. I take on board the comments of the director that housing is and development of housing is a major criteria for it, but unfortunately there's no percentages in any of the documentation that says this is how much we attach to this and how much we attach to that when it comes to those particular matters. So I'm at a bit of a loss. Certainly I think that there were probably greater opportunities with other projects, but if we can be successful with Wickham Lane, then I'd greatly receive with open arms.
Thank you. Councillor Hewson, want to make a comment? No. I'm in supporting this. I see a great growth for us in this area, especially with people working remotely and from home. There's been increased interest, especially from families, to move to this area, and partly whether they work in or out of the area. And I see anything that progresses growth of housing as something that will certainly work for this area. And in doing that, I think sometimes when they say that it's cross areas, in the terms I'm talking about, it's not irrelevant, but with housing and people working more and more from home, then it's not as important. And I see for us, and I support Councillor Ingram in this, that Wickham Road certainly is a project that I would support. Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A couple of questions. One for the Director. I've always been of the view that developers are subject to Section 94 fees to provide the infrastructure required for developments. Is that not the case with Wickham Lane?
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, we can collect Section 94. It is an opportunity, however, because only once you've got sufficient Section 94 funding can you actually do the road. So it is a bit of a difficult one where you have to wait until you've accumulated sufficient funding to be able to do the entire road. And it is about stimulating the interest of developers, but it cannot be with council's money. So it's about getting that incentive for people to do those developments and still be able to deliver it. Otherwise, you could say the road's going to cost X amount and it's going to take us 20 years to get sufficient Section 94 funds, or it's now 712 and 711 funds, before we can actually undertake the works. This is an opportunity to progress that.
That's, I stand to be corrected. That's not my understanding. My understanding is the purpose of Section 94 is to raise the funds, and council is therefore availed of the opportunity to go and borrow the money and repay that through the Section 94 funding. Is that not correct?
It was actually noted in, you asked this question earlier, Councillor, about the loan, and the advice that I had is it's a loan arrangement using Section 94 funding is not permissible.
I actually asked a different question in relation to that, but I'll get to that later. I asked, can you borrow between two funding amounts, not whether you can borrow against funds. Anyway, we'll get to that separately. I still believe Section 94 funds are more appropriate for this. The Cunningar precinct was included in our LEP as future planning. Could the director advise us of, given we received the report back from the state government where the Cunningar precinct sits, was it accepted as part of the LEP?
Thank you. Director of Planning, can you help us?
So, through you, Madam Mayor, as you'll be aware, we signalled the Cunningar precinct as part of a strategic, local strategic, land use statement, our PSS. And then, we put the appropriate zoning to support that into the LEP. So those two preconditions are in place. There's obviously the important factor of then activating it in terms of encouraging their investment and their activity in that space, but the zonings are in place.
So the question is, where does council sit in relation to the Cunningar precinct and an industrial zoning? Has the state government accepted that rezoning?
Yes, because our LEP was made at the end of December last year. It was the third commencement that began in the beginning of February. So there is the zonings in place to support the Cunningar precinct development.
And if we were to include the Cunningar precinct in this grant application, would it fall under the $2 million to $30 million category, or would it fit under the maximum of $500,000 directly linked to infrastructure project, where applications for planning and approvals are detailed? Can we apply for $2 million, or would we be capped at the $500,000?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the studies are $500,000 if you want to do a study. I would like to mention, however, that this funding requires a 25% co-funding. So if you go to $30 million, council needs to find the 25% as a co-funding contribution to this project. The reason why we thought of Wickham Lane is because there are other road funding programs that we can apply to put into this as a 25%, which is detailed in the report before you.
So the answer to that was that we would be limited to the $500,000 for the Cunningar precinct.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure how much it's going to cost to put a study together that would satisfy the requirements of what they're asking, because when you want to put a study together, there's a lot of detail that you have, which we don't have at this present moment.
On page 354, on the left-hand side, it goes through details of eligible projects, and the paragraph reads, the bottom paragraph, applications can include final planning and approvals such as detailed design or technical studies that are required to deliver the infrastructure. Funding for this component of the project can be up to a maximum of 500,000, must be directly linked to the infrastructure project, must be completed within 6 months. If the Councinglor project is to be put forward by council, could we apply for $2 million or would that clause apply to us?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure if we're talking about 500,000 or $2 million.
I'm not sure. I'm hoping you as the director can enlighten the council.
But if it's an infrastructure, through you, Madam Mayor, if it's an infrastructure program, it is a minimum of $2 million, which we believe that Wickham Lane, if we add the drainage, etc., will include. For a feasibility study or a study of a proposed project, that's 500,000. They are two separate. The one is to actually do the detailed design for the infrastructure. The other is to put together a feasibility. And based on that, we need to have more information to be able to put an expression of interest in as to how we believe what we're going to do to deliver for the 500,000 if we were to do a study on the Councinglor precinct. And I'm not sure if the 500,000 would actually cover adequately all the work that needs to be done to put that precinct. But I'm happy to take it on board, councillors. If that's what we want to add to this, then I'm more than happy to have a look at it.
We can only put one application in, and we don't.
Yes.
We get one more council meeting before we've got to put the application in, but it doesn't leave us many days. So we've got to either have decision tonight or an EGM, is my view. But if we don't put the Councinglor project forward, the planning for applications for detailed planning, where would you, we've said that we might get money elsewhere for other roads. Where might we get the money for detailed planning for the Councinglor precinct if we didn't put it forward for an application such as this?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we are continuously looking at funding opportunities, and that would be something that we continue to look into in terms of any other money. We've got a big long list, and we'll add it to the list, and we will seek funding appropriately.
And I know I've had my turn, but that 25% co-contribution, you can't make it funding received from the New South Wales government, but can you from the feds?
Yeah.
You can. Okay. And that's what you were saying, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It can come from the federal.
Okay. And that's what we're looking for?
Yes.
Okay. Righto. Councillor Mackie. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To the Director, approximately what do you think might be the cost of the Wickham Lane project?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the preliminary estimates that we have done, and we have got a design of the work that we want to do on Wickham Lane, is about $2.8 million. But that would have to be obviously finessed with what we now know in terms of infrastructure costs.
Okay, so that would mean that we would have to come up as a council with $700,000.
Yeah.
And you say that there are grants and things like that from federal,
from sources,
developers or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to.
Thank you. Councillor Foreman.
Look, I'd just like to probably say I agree with Greg. I'm not too sure whether we do meet the criteria, but I definitely think we should put an expression of interest in for Wickham Lane. But basically my point of view is it's a project that does support regional housing, and that is a strong development area. And I think it would be money well spent if we could make it. I mean, we need to support housing, and this is one way we can do it, basically.
Question through you, Madam Mayor. What's the nature of the work at Wickham Lane that you believe council should undertake through this funding?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we're looking at upgrades to the stormwater drainage as well as the road itself.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I think we've all had a turn. Councillor, beg your pardon? All right. Move to go out of committee. Need a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Hewson. A moment. Okay. Still passed. Okay. Righto. So we're out of committee. and the recommendation is there. We've had a mover and a seconder. Any more questions, comments? Now, when we move it, Councillor Ingram won't be there. He's not in the room. All right. I'll move it now. Those in favour?
Gerald, Councillor Rolls, Councillor Hewson, Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Piper. Those against? Councillor Mackey, Councillor Flannery, Councillor Stabmiller. Passed.
Thank you. Motion's passed. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on now to the Capital Works report. Do I have a mover? Thank you. You'll second it? Okay. Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Armstrong, have you questions?
So, a couple of questions. Just a question probably to the relevant officer. The $7,000 for the UPS replacement, awning construction and UPS battery replacement. Just wondering what equipment would council own there that requires a UPS replacement? I would have assumed that the IT equipment would be the property of the practice. So I'm just. I know that that's the only cost to date, $7,000 for the UPS.
You just give us the page and the reference.
It's the very first page, page 371, and it's the first line item.
Oh, okay. Right, thank you.
UPS stands for uninterrupted power supply.
That's correct, yeah.
My understanding is, that just from recollection, is the term of the release of the building, it had some very specific items, and that may have been one of them that was actually the remit of council, notwithstanding your comment that it's usually the lessee that does it. That's just from memory. I would take that on notice to check my recollection, but it was somewhat of a different lease from last discussion that I had.
If we can get some confirmation of that.
Yes, certainly. Yep.
And the other thing is more of an observation, I guess, rather than being very specific about individual items. I don't want to take up all the evening. And that observation is that there are a very large number of capital works programs in there, but it doesn't look like we are going to get done, given that this is to the end of March, that we are going to get done. And there are some specific ones in there, like reseals that we've probably missed the boat in, given the advice provided by the General Manager and earlier this year in regards to reseals. So they're probably not going to get done. But in the water and sewer area, there are a couple of classics there. One in particular, the one was the sewage treatment capital works at Harden, a budget of $180,500, entirely justified, I believe. 30% of the works are completed, but we haven't spent a penny. I'm just wondering how we could do 30% at no cost at all. That doesn't seem feasible. Otherwise, if we can do 30% at no cost, I suppose it probably leads one to believe that we should be able to do the other 70% the same amount. So some big concerns in there that the capital works program is falling well behind where it should be. And this sends a big flag out to you, councillors, that $5 million worth of roadworks that you've just approved has to be done, as well as any of these capital jobs that are not done. And I don't think there's going to be resources or the cash in the organisation to achieve it. That'll do me.
Okay, thank you for your observation.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councillor
question,
Papa.
presume of the General Manager, in the same page as there are community centres, the Burrurah Museum floor replacement. Where are we up to with that? Because we've already had one accident on the floor.
Yeah, up to you, Madam Mayor. There was a quotation process. It was successfully issued, and I understand the works is planned. It should be started very soon. I've actually spoken to the successful quota, so it is planned to happen this financial year.
I believe we have a document giving permission for the builder to go ahead, but they're still waiting for confirmation of money from council.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that last day that it was all go, but I will take that on notice and follow it up.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Mackie.
Sorry, through Madam Mayor. This could be too specific, but when it says the Burrurah upgrade to the swimming pool, do you know if it includes the shade for the baby pool? Because someone was talking about that the other day, because I think it was storm damage or something that caused the shade to disappear.
I'm through, Madam Mayor. The pools are being applied at the same as we've done with the Harden and Jugiong pool. Those monies are being maintained on the budget. Once we do the final scope of the work, it will be applied. So at the moment, the scope for Burrurah has not been finalised, purely because we've been working on the Harden and Jugiong pool. That scoping has still to be taken place.
Just a question. If it was storm damaged, do we claim on insurance?
I'm through, Madam Mayor. Yes, we can claim on storm damage. It's just, I guess, the cost and what it will do to the premiums. I'm not the insurance expert, but.
And there's a query, isn't there, about shade cloths too, somewhere?
Yeah, no, we normally at least advise the insurer, and then once the outcome's known, so we're going to lodge a claim. Yeah.
Okay.
In any event, we'd always advise the insurer.
All right. Thank you. If there are no more questions, I'll put it to the floor. Those in favour? Oh, Councillor Armstrong.
Only one other question. Given that we've got a QBR coming to us shortly, any of the capital works that are not going to be completed, there'll be recommendations in regards to those, the QBR.
That is correct.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll put to the floor. Those in favour? Councillor Flannery? Yes, unanimous. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to 1215, 2372, Works Report. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. And a seconder? Did I see a hand somewhere? Councillor Armstrong. Okay. Councillor Fitzgerald, do you want to ask? Okay. Councillor Armstrong.
First of all, I want to congratulate the director and his staff for putting together this report. Finally, we've got some real definable measures of our achievements in terms of our gravel roads and their maintenance. I do note in particular that when it comes to gravel resheeting, though, for some reason we only seem to be resheeting very short sections of road rather than the more significant ones. I guess we're using the Brill cream philosophy there with a little dabble, do you? Just a question in regards to Kanmangaroo Road. It has a length of 9.3 kilometres. I said that the full length of 9.3 kilometres has been graded, plus 5.5 kilometres of shoulder grading. Can I just get some clarification? Is that 9.3 kilometres total length, mixed surfaces, or is it 9.3 kilometres gravel surface only, and further 5.5 of seal surface with shoulder grading?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Armstrong, yes, the total length of Tamangaroo is 9.3 kilometres. And basically what we've done is 4 kilometres of road that was repaired.
So we've done 9.3 kilometres of grading and gone back and done another 5 kilometres.
The total length of Tamangaroo is 9.3 and we only did 4 kilometres of the 9.3.
I'm afraid the report says, the line says Tamangaroo Road, 9.3 km plus 5.5 km shoulder with a total length of 9.3 kilometres. I read that and I read 9.3 kilometres of road graded plus 5.5 kilometres of shoulder graded.
Sorry, Councillor Armstrong, on which page are you? Is that what gravel reach?
5.
No, I'm sorry, I'm at 387. 387 has also got something there.
There's a bit more, a little bit, I think we've been back. Certainly the Brill Creams have gone on fairly thick there.
No, Councillor Armstrong, sorry. That 9.3 there is incorrect. If you go to page 387, that's the correct one there. So in total, 4 kilometres was done out of the 9.3. That's my error there, sorry.
So we've done 4 kilometres of road plus an additional 5.5 k of shoulder grading.
No, that 9.3 plus 5.5 kilometres shoulder grading is incorrect. It's only 4 kilometres. That's a big error that I made there. So there was gravel resheeting plus grading done on that road.
So when we come down to Willamere Road, it's 7 kilometres long. And we've done 0.7 kilometres plus 0.7 kilometres shoulder grading. Is that also an error, or is that?
No, that is correct.
So have we done 1.4 kilometres there, or have we done?
So the 0.7 kilometres was grading, and then of the 0.7, another 0.7 at the same area was the shoulder grading. So it is a total of 0.7 kilometres. That was grading plus the shoulders grading. Only a section of the road that was done.
I'd suggest that to remove the confusion that probably should be 0.7 kilometres and not further 0.7 kilometres shoulder grading.
We'll remove it, Councillor.
As a suggestion.
No, taken.
I don't think I would be the only councillor confused by that.
Okay, thank you.
Question, Madam Mayor.
Yes,
a couple of questions actually. Page 383, it lists total maintenance grading completed for financial year. Was that last financial year, or is that for this financial year to date? And I draw your attention specifically to Heathfield Road, which is the second last road listed on that page 383. And then if we go over to plan for the period May 2023 to June 23 and turn to the top of page 386, it has Heathfield Road. So I'm just not too sure if all of Heathfield Road has been graded as page 383. And no offence, but it does need another grade. But it's saying that it's all been graded this year. So that's grade number 1. And then if we go to 386, it's to be graded again. Is that correct? Yeah. Or it's just budgeted that we'll grade it once, that we'll do a full grade once in the year. And it hasn't occurred yet, so that's...
Through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Flannery, yes, you're correct. Heathfield Road was 7 kilometres in total, and 7 kilometres was done. If you go back to page 386, the Heathfield Road should have been taken out of that one there. So it's the total length that you got there is for this current financial year, from July last year up to today.
So there's no planned grade from May, June this year for Heathfield Road?
No.
Right. Okay. That's upset me a bit. And no doubt the residents that live down Heathfield. Well, the other question I had, requested at the last meeting, and actually I'll make one more comment. Garama, well, it's listed there as on page 383 as Garama with a double M. And I'm pretty sure the signpost lists it with 1 M, although there is a Garama property at the end of the Garama Road. But that's just a technicality. However, Garama Road was graded and I think rolled, and gravel out of Dwyer's Pit has been used on WIRRIMAH Road, and it's an exceptional gravel road, although it doesn't suffer a lot of traffic. I will admit that, but did suffer a lot of flooding. It took very little work to get it back in condition. I'll compare and contrast that to Linwood Lane, which suffered a lot of damage just recently in the most recent storm, albeit very, very severe. And Council's done a very good job at making emergency repairs to that road, which I can't see listed here. However, regrettably, gravel from what is referred as the DeMondrell Pit was used on it. You're better off getting sand out of Bondi Beach than sand out of the pit there. Now, I would strongly encourage staff to use Dwyer's Pit. I don't believe we have any cap on it, but perhaps there's a cap on the amount that's pushed up. But the pit at DeMondrell is highly decomposed granite and will not cope with flooding or high water events at all. And it would be worth the director's drive to go and look at the two roads, and you'll see if you spend money wisely once, it saves a lot. The other question was about Campbellfields Road. It says that it's had 6.5 kilometres. There's 7.7 kilometres of road that's graded. Is the other 1.2 kilometres to be done this year? And a final question that was a request at the last meeting, that for the benefit of councillors, when we do see roads like Tangmangaroo Road, there was one here that I saw that's 38 kilometres long, Scenic Road. It's gravel resheeting. It lists Scenic Road as 38 kilometres long. Clearly 38 kilometres is not all gravel. A good portion of that is asphalt. But we differentiate on the asphalt versus gravel, and a request that we get how many grades a road gets per year and where we're up to, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, Councillor Flannery, that is something that we're working on to add to the next report, is the intervals of the grading, for instance, and resheeting.
Okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes.
That's just a question in regard to the grading of the gravel roads, and that's the same name, but it's not on this list at all anywhere. The Bibbaringa Road is one of those roads which is part sealed and part dirt. It'll come to a surprise to staff, I know, because they haven't been there. What I would like to see at the next meeting is a report the last time it had work done on it. Clearly been a length of time since it's been graded, and it's not listed anywhere to be graded. I suggest if we go for the drive in the morning and we get off the bitumen onto the gravel, you'll probably agree that it needs some attention sooner rather than later. But it doesn't ever appear anywhere. I don't know, I didn't count how many roads you've got there or how many aren't on there, but it's one that's not. And there'd be others, I'd imagine. But you just can't go and leave them and forget about them forever. It just doesn't work that way. We used to do things so much better.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram. I'd just like to congratulate staff on the work that you are doing. I've had actually from a couple of people who travel around the hilltops all the time, and I'd like to pass on their comments to me about the good work that all staff are doing on the roads. Of course, it will continue, and of course there are roads that we have to keep on doing, but I would like to pass on those comments that I have were given to me, and they were actually asked if I would pass them on to staff, so I'll pass them on now.
You mean to the outdoor staff that actually do the work?
Councillor Ingram, everybody does the work. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if I've seen the director driving the grader.
Question, Madam Mayor. Question in regard to the
yes, Councillor Armstrong.
In regard to the gravel resheeting. We've got gravel resheeting achieved for the financial year there, about 33 Ks in round figures at a rough addition. I'm just wondering how much more we're going to be able to achieve, given that we're heading into winter. We don't seem to get much gravel resheeting done through winter in the hilltops traditionally. So what's our expectations in terms of lengths for the following 2 months. Just think of that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'll have to take that question on notice and come back to councillors.
Thank you. All right. We've had discussion. Put it to the vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Oh, Councillor Houston, but it's unanimous. Thank you.
Second.
Councillor Stadmiller, pardon me, I had my. We're up to correspondence for information, page 398. Those in favour?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we're up to 1217, the action summary report. And the recommendation is there. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Flannery.
Questions, Madam Mayor. Could the director please advise of when we'll receive a report on the weights and measures, the budget allocation that we spend on them? I think there's a question where the money goes and what the extent of the contract is. I'm just looking for the date, but I believe I asked originally in August last year, correct? When we might get.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, there was a request for a report. Currently, the memorandum of understanding with the weights and measures is not, has lapsed. It is with Queanbeyan as the administrator of that, and currently, as far as I'm aware, we are not paying anything for those weights and measures because we don't have a up-to-date agreement. The agreement is old, and there is no new agreement which is currently being worked on.
So they're that's very generous of them. They're attending our shire for no fee.
Okay, thank you.
And will a report be coming to council? Is there any position that council holds if they're coming here and giving us grief? Do we want them here anymore?
Councillor, my recollection of the original agreement, council actually delegates authority to do that to them. So if the agreement has lapsed, perhaps that delegation has also lapsed. And the weight of loads group may not actually have the authority to conduct their inspections in Hilltops.
Well, it's certainly interesting because, and I know I advised the director back in January that a truck driver actually didn't receive a fine, received a warning and had to show cause as to why. But if we've had operators that have had fines and there's no delegation, perhaps those fines.
I think it's something that should be investigated rather urgently, rather than left on the back burner, because at the end of the day, if council has not provided a fresh delegation, then the weight of loads group would need to be aware of that as well.
Yep.
So they may well be acting outside their delegations from council.
Through Madam Mayor, I will take that action as an urgent action from this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There are a number of items from the Gaylong, from the last Gaylong. They hold meetings bi-monthly. So there are a number of streets, potholes in Gaylong streets that requested for action. Seamus Street, Ryan Street, Bent Street. There was a barrier put around a pothole that I believe is a couple of metres wide and nearly 30 centimetres deep. Council erected a barrier around it and nothing's been actioned 12 months ago. Harden Street, there are washers and drains. Has anyone visited Gaylong to inspect the damage or works required? And
Through Madam Mayor, if I could get a list of those road names that, or the minutes of that meeting, I'll make sure that somebody goes in to have a look at those roads.
Yep, I'll give those to you, please.
Okay.
The other question was, we had a $91,000, I can't remember, it was in the last meeting or the previous, there was $91,000 in, the budget over expenditure on fire control. And I asked, was that the work? Well, if I went back to the October meeting, there was fire control put up on Campbell, or constructed, erected, however you want to phrase it. Campbellfields Road was a designated fire break, and I asked at the time who designated it as a fire break. So the edge of the road was burnt, and then it was all slashed. And the question was it of our request? And I guess it's of particular pertinence given our last audit report, where they said the fire control is our obligation, is the view of the government auditors. And if so, we should have known about the construction of a fire break along Campbellfields Road. And at the time, the director said that the question would be taken on notice. At the last meeting, we reallocated, or we moved the $91,000 for over expenditure for fire control be accepted or adopted. And I asked, was that the work that was done on Campbellfields Road? Do we have an answer to that yet?
All hazard reduction is guided by the RFS. RFS indicate to our teams where we need to do hazard reduction. To the specific point of Campbellfields Road, I'll have to look into that, Councillor.
Well, I want to know specifically, was the $91,000 that we had to revote in relation to Campbellfields Road, and if not, where that $91,000 revote was allocated to? And I think I also asked for a report from the director on the government contract that we had an over expenditure of $426,000.
Just a question to Councillor Flannery for a brand new councillor. Where is Campbellfields Road exactly? Where's the road that runs up past your cemetery in Harden?
It runs from Cunningar to Moringo Road, but Councillor Piper, you were on a fire truck there putting the fire out when they did the controlled burn.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to know when we're going to get reports on all those matters, including the government contract that we overspent, that the financial director said would have a report come back to council.
Would that be part of the budget review? Through Madam Mayor, the matters that have been raised here will be part of the quarterly budget review and reported there.
Okay, thank you, Director. If there are no more comments, questions, I'll put it to vote. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to 13, questions with notice. The request for information. We have it there. Can I have a mover? Thank you. And seconded, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I asked the question once before, I know, about the costing of the repair work, and it was said it was all budgeted for and it would be coming out of the budget, and I think that's very good. That it hasn't been done all that long, some of the work. But if you go back to the start, Back Creek Road, come along and come down Wombat Street, it does appear to get a bit better further down Wombat Street, Myrtle Street from down there. I've had a close inspection of all, but it does look like they've done a better job of repairing and covering it over the top, and it seems to be standing up a bit. But from the Back Creek Road where it starts on the tar, And then down Wombat Street, and there's been a problem at the sweeping corner of Wombat Street for some time. And council have had 25 goes of patching it. Sorry, I don't think we need 26 goes. They came back not that long ago. If you drive up there now, it needs some attention to it. Probably now, not 12 months from the completion of the rest of the work, but I'm not sure when that 12 months, when the completion of the works will be done. Maybe someone can provide that information. But the recovering of where they put the conveyance main along Back Creek Road and down around Wombat Street is failing and failing badly now. And where they cross the road, it's like speed humps. It will take a lot of repairing properly. It is very unfortunate. We needed the new water conveyance main, and I don't know from the other side of town what it's going like now, but it does look better, as I said, as they got going. But there will be a considerable amount of money needed who does the final inspection to bring that work back up to scratch to how it was before the work started. The second part of that is when you come over the bridge at Wombat Street, near the skate park, there was a problem there with the water main for a long time. Staff finally addressed that, which was good. But just drive past there and go in the hole as you come off the bridge. This is in a very, very busy area. You're coming along a bit further to the corner opposite the post office and roundabout, and there's a hole there that I mentioned to the general manager once before about. It's a distinctive shape hole. I don't know what they did to create it. Let's say 3 inches. Just have no understanding of why it would be done and why it's still there and not fixed. Come along a bit further to outside Hamlin's Chemist, and guess what? On the main street of Burra Street, there's a great hole there. What's it doing there? Both been reported to the general manager before. Apparently, I need to bring it up again, but it's just not good enough. They're not potholes out in the back roads that people may be forgiven for not being aware of. These are in the main street areas of Young. So I'd appreciate if they could be looked at, and I look forward to finding out who does the final inspection when these works are projected to be completed, and ensuring our community that those surfaces that are now in such poor condition will be repaired to what they were before it started. But thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Put it to the vote. Do we vote? Is this a motion or is it?
Basically, it's a receive and
receive and note.
Receive and note.
So that's what we're moving.
The report, but obviously noting the detailed
Madam Mayor,
questions from
just in regard to the road deformation that Councillor Ingram refers to in Wombat Street on the corner about 170 metres down from the Back Creek Road intersection is that appears to be recurrent, and it appears to be getting worse. It's concerned me that there might be a leak of water main there if there is a rather sharp turn, and if one of the thrust blocks or something is not adequately secured, or is a band is leaking or something, that could be actually be contributing to the ongoing issue with the road deformation, because it's not just a pothole. There's actually
it's something that's causing
an underlying issue there.
Righto. Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Amanda, we will investigate that and we'll take it up with the contractor who's busy with that work.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll put it to vote. We'll receive a note. Those in favour? Councillor Stadmiller?
I didn't think we were voting. I just thought we were receiving it.
It's just to receive a note, that's all.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. I think that was unanimous. Thank you. Let's move on. The next one, questions with notice or request for information.
So moved.
Thank you. Councillor Stadmiller? Seconder? Councillor Foreman? Any questions? on these questions?
I'll just be brief, if that's all right, Madam Mayor. I know the General Manager's been away, so it's been a little bit difficult. He was away for a brief period recently, and staff have done their best, and most of the questions are pretty good. I'll have a chat with the GM afterwards and clear up anything else I have. I won't take up anyone else's time tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Stabenow. If there aren't any more questions, I'll put it to the vote to receive a note. Those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. All right. Let's go. Any notice of motion? No. So we move to confidential matters. Can I have a mover?
Madam, could I raise a point of order?
Yes.
In regard to the confidential matters, and could I have it explained to me just why item 15.6, I think it's the last item. I'll just double check. Don't make too many statements.
That's correct.
Here it is. 15.6 is locked away in confidential. This money and allocation has been spoken about several times in open council. Firstly, when it was at Wickham Lane, then it went to the stormwater. Then we had to take it off the stormwater because someone found a one-liner in an agreement. And now we find it's stuck at the back in confidential. Is there any specific reason anyone would have? I can't see anything under the guidelines that I looked at that would warrant this being in confidential.
To you, Madam Mayor, the reason why it's in confidential, and obviously I'll take the direction of council. At the February meeting, we presented to council in confidential the outcome of the tendering process, and the tendering process indicated that there was a shortfall of what was done, and the resolution of council at the time was two things. One, to look at whether we could change the scope of the tender. As we did, we followed the same process with the MURRUMBURRAH precinct, and the second one was to delegate the General Manager to negotiate on behalf of council for within the budget limits. We are still in the process of identifying how we can actually fund the shortfall of that particular item, and it is currently under negotiation with the contractor, and it is in confidential purely because if we indicate the shortfall and what we are going to be presenting as part of the paper of where we could get some of the shortfall, that would be something that would be publicly available. But again, I take direction from council as to whether that was the right approach or not, but it is something that's still in negotiation.
I thought in our last business paper, I'm pretty sure that we were told that the tender had been accepted.
The tender was accepted, but we needed to look at changing.
The tender
but there was insufficient budget.
And we were told that the tenderer, the successful tenderer, was approached about changing the scope to fit the money we had, and we were told no, they couldn't do anything less to change the scope out of, not my mouth, your mouth. So we've been made aware of that. So that's public knowledge. We spoke about this at workshops. So I just don't know why. It doesn't matter, matter can be dealt with. I just thought there are guidelines as to why things need to be in closed council. Are we keeping information from our community? Why are we hiding stuff from our community? We're here to represent them. I just can't. And I haven't seen anything that tells me why it's got to be in confidential. So, thank you.
I don't think I can add anything to what the director has says. It's we've heard on the side of what I understand from the point, the negotiations have not been completed. Heard on the side of caution that it will be a commercial in confidence matter that we would be disclosing, but that's our view. If councillors have a different view, so be it.
I think you'll take your explanation from both the director and the general manager and deal with it in closed. But I just can't see when we spoke about it before in public why it's even. It may come out yet later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Stadmiller.
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, there's not much that is actually required in confidential at any stage in a business paper we can choose to move it out on a whim. Coolman Council provides a great example of doing that and has a high level of transparency, and it most likely provides the community with a better outcome. Everything's out in the open. The other tenderers know where they stand, and the next time they tender, they go from there. So backing up Councillor Ingram's comments, I think it's something we should look at in the future. We certainly haven't done it over the last 6 years, but maybe going forward, it could make things more competitive.
Thank you, through Mayor. Thank you for that, Councillor Stamler. Look, we will review what it is. As I've stated, we've been cautious, and we will review that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We move into confidential.
Okay, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Foreman, those in favour? All right. Move in unanimous, move into confidential.
Thank you, Minute Secretary. Council resolved to come out of confidential. Whilst in confidential, Council resolved at report 12.12-23/69 hydrotherapy pool at the KRUGER Health and Wellness Centre. Council resolved to defer the report and bring a further report back to Council for consideration. Also, whilst in confidential, 15.2-23/78 award contract for RFT 00006 provision of traffic control services panel. Council resolved to receive and note the report and for those services, award the contract to the successful contractors, and C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with that contract. Report 15.3-23/79-RFQ 622 of 2022, supply and disposal of 5 3-axle dog trailers. Council resolved to defer the matter to the new financial year. Report 15.4-23/80-RFT 623 of 2022, supply and disposal of 4 gravel trucks. Council resolved to defer the matter to the new financial year. Council report 15.5-23/81 disposal of land Green Road Young. Council resolved to defer the matter until the status of land was confirmed. 15.6-23/82 local roads and community infrastructure program phase 3. Council resolved to receive and note the report. B, adopt the proposed project option for the local road and community infrastructure phase 3 as presented in this report. And C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the local road and community infrastructure. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, General Manager, and thank you, councillors. Take care on the way home. And thank you once again for all the work that you do for our Hilltops area.
And
thank you.
Close the meeting at?
And we close the meeting at 8:58 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you.